Douluo, destroying Yu Xiaogang, I'm invincible. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76, Bald, but not stronger, sat. A cry of surprise attracted everyone's attention. Everyone, including Zhang Tianyu and Zhao Wu who had just landed on the ground, all looked at Tang San. Sure enough, Tang San's hair had completely fallen off and fell to the ground. At this moment, his head was like a shiny big light bulb, reflecting the cold moonlight. Everyone was stunned. Oscar was the most stunned one. Good guy, this bald head reminded him of himself not long ago. Fortunately, he is no longer bald now, but now his situation seems to be worse than bald. The focus is back to Tang San. Tang San absorbed the third soul ring and saw Zhang Tianyu and Zhao Wu back. Originally, his face was full of joy, but after hearing Ma Hongzhen's roar and seeing the strange eyes of everyone, Tang San's expression froze. Then he asked with some trembling, I became a bald head? In fact, there is no need to ask, because he has seen the hair scattered on his body and around his body, but he still can't accept it. Although he looks ordinary and not as handsome as Damu Bei and Zhang Tianyu, it doesn't mean that he likes to be bald. Bald heads are too ugly. He doesn't look good to begin with, and becoming bald would make him even uglier. Seeing everyone nodding hesitantly, sympathetically, or painfully, Tang San stretched out his right hand, trembling and shivering as he touched his head. When his palm touched the shiny head, he was struck by lightning, and his whole body shook violently. Really? He really became bald? That's right. Very bald. Very smooth. Very round. Ah. No. My beautiful hair. Why? Why did I suddenly become bald for no apparent reason? Exclamation mark. Who can explain it to me? This is too weird. Zhao Wuji expressed the thoughts of everyone. How could I suddenly become bald for no apparent reason? Everyone looked at each other. You looked at me, and I looked at you, all with puzzled faces. Although Oscar also became bald before, but he became bald for a reason. His hair was burned by the fire in his sausage grill, so he had to shave his head bald. But Tang San, there is no reason, no excuse. Suddenly Damu Bei thought of something and said, could it be related to the absorption of spirit rings like Xiaogang? Everyone was stunned and immediately looked at Oscar, who looked like a hairy monster. Zhao Wuji slapped his thigh. Yes, it's possible. There is a problem with the spirit ring that Oscar absorbed, which caused his hair growth rate to become so terrible, and the spirit ring that Tang San absorbed also has a problem, so he became bald after absorbing it. Hiss. Zhao Wuji took a breath of cold air. This is also very strange. Why would there be problems with absorbing spirit rings? And the problems are continuous. Although these are not major problems that affect health and lifespan. This is like a toad crawling on your feet. It doesn't bite, but it disgusts you. Oscar spoke at this time. I think Arsan's is better. After all, although his hair is falling out now, it will grow back in a few days. On the contrary, mine. Alas. It's so hard for me. Hearing this, Tang San felt a little better. Yes, although his hair fell out, it will grow back in the future. Compared with Oscar, he is already very lucky. If he grows hair like Oscar, it will definitely be more painful than becoming bald. Everyone nodded again and again, but Zhang Tianyu laughed wildly in his heart. Grow it out in the future? Wishful thinking. Tang San, you wait. If I don't remove the effect for you, you will be as bald as him for several months, even years, or even a lifetime. Wang Bei hair loss water. Although the effect of this item only lasts for a few months, it is cheap. Once the effect is over, you can exchange it for another one to renew it for him. It will be renewed over and over again. It is not difficult to make him bald for life. And the most important thing is, although Tang San became bald, he did not become stronger, but became weaker compared to the original plot. Although his soul skill was still spider web binding, it was old and the power was reduced. The most important thing was that he lost the 8 spider soul bones. Without the 8 spider soul bones, Tang San has been on a downward slope since then. Open champagne. Set off fireworks. Celebrate. After stabilizing Tang San's emotions, everyone immediately shifted their attention to Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu also took out the previous set of rhetoric and said it again. Although it sounded a bit unreal, fortunately Xiao Wu had returned safely. In their opinion, there was no need for Xiao Wu to lie about such things, so the matter ended there. Because there was no opportunity for Tang San's hidden weapons to appear in the whole process, Tang San did not say anything about the hidden weapons, and did not trigger the plot of Ning Rangrang wanting to buy hidden weapons. However, this part is also the main plot, which will be triggered sooner or later, and this plot has no effect on the relationship between Zhang Tianyu and Ning Rangrang, so Zhang Tianyu was too lazy to care about it. After a night's rest, everyone set out on the journey back to Shrek Academy the next morning. The chapter of the Star Forest also came to an end. Next, Hehe. Yu Xiaogang is finally going to appear again. Yu Xiaogang, I've been waiting for you so long. In the evening of the same day, the group returned to the academy in a dusty state. Xiao Wuji went to the dean's office without stopping and reported to Flanders about this dangerous trip to the Star Forest. After listening to Xiao Wuji's narration, Flanders was stunned. What the hell? Tang San and Xiao Wu also broke through to level 30? This is a good thing. But what the hell? You also encountered the Titan giant ape? And you came back alive. Damn. This is a really good thing. Titan giant ape? Yu Xiaogang appeared outside the office door, his expression very stiff. It's really unexpected to encounter a Titan giant ape in the periphery. In addition, the bull roar you mentioned should be the Azure bull python. Flanders smiled and said, the wise man is here. Come on. Come quickly. I'll introduce you. After introducing both parties, Yu Xiaogang couldn't wait to ask about Tang San's situation. When he heard that Tang San was safe, broke through level 30, and successfully absorbed the third spirit ring, his dull and stiff face finally had a trace of relief. Then he explained and showed off a little, which was considered to be completely intimidating Xiao Wuji. However, when Xiao Wuji described Oscar and Tang San's experience after obtaining the spirit ring, Yu Xiaogang was also confused. What the hell? After obtaining the spirit ring, the hair on the body grew wildly? Exclamation mark. After obtaining the spirit ring, inexplicably became bald? Exclamation mark. Ah, is there such a thing? What the hell is going on? Master, Xiao Wuji asked respectfully, you are well informed. Are there any soul ring mutations on the mainland? Anyway, I really don't understand why they become like this. Yu Xiaogang looked at him speechlessly. You don't understand? I don't understand either. Chapter 77 Yu Xiaogang. The thickest ripple. This situation. I have never seen it before. Yu Xiaogang sighed. He really had never seen it. He had never heard of anyone who would have crazy hair growth or become bald after absorbing a spirit ring. Could it be that the times have changed? It is different from the past? Xiao Wuji asked Flanders again, and Flanders shook his head. When I was traveling abroad before, I never saw or heard of such a situation. Xiao Wuji was helpless. I'll make a note of this matter, Yu Xiaogang said. I'll go to the spirit hall to ask tomorrow. He really didn't want to deal with the spirit hall, but there was no way. For this kind of thing, the spirit hall must know more than him, a half-baked person. Flanders and Xiao Wuji nodded silently. At this point, there was no other way. Flanders also said, then I'll go ask a few friends tomorrow. Xiaoyu, you are my brother now. Oscar looked at Zhang Xiaoyu with tears in his eyes in his dormitory. Zhang Xiaoyu was so kind. He knew the pain of shaving every 10 seconds, so he came to his dormitory to help him suppress the growth of hair. If Zhang Xiaoyu didn't come to help him, who knows what his hair would look like after this night. But don't, Zhang Xiaoyu said, if this dead air enters your body and causes some adverse effects in the future, just don't blame me. No, I will never blame you. Asen can testify, Oscar said quickly. Zhang Xiaoyu looked at Tang San on the side, and Tang San looked desperate. His head was still shiny, as if it was coated with a layer of oil film, shining and dazzling. In other words, he slept all night last night, and by this evening, it was almost a day and a night event, but there was still not a single hair growing on his head, and there was no sign of it growing at all. He had also tried his best to let Zhang Tianyu release the Black Death aura to affect him, but it was obviously useless. His situation was completely different from Oscar's, so his hair still didn't grow out. However, although the situation was completely opposite to Oscar's, the nature was the same. Oscar's hair grew wildly all over his body, while Tang San was completely bald without a single hair left. That's right, now he is a bald pig, a real bald pig, and there is not a single hair on his body. Of course, to some extent, he is quite clean, but he doesn't want this kind of cleanliness, because it is very abnormal cleanliness. He is embarrassed to take a shower with other boys. Now he can refer to the image of him becoming bald on the Sea God Island in the anime, and he is even uglier than that image. After all, the Sea God Island had been transformed by the Blue Silver Emperor at that time, while Tang San now still looks very ordinary. In addition, at that time on the Sea God Island, Tang San at least had a layer of short hair on his head, while Tang San now is a complete light bulb. After a busy day, everyone was tired, so they all went to bed early. After returning to the dormitory, Zhang Tianyu set up a bed in Oscar's dormitory and used the death energy of Huangquan to suppress Oscar's hair growth. Oscar spent a peaceful night. The next morning, after getting up and looking at his body, no new hair grew. Oscar cried with joy. Tianyu Gigi, I can't live without you in the future. Oscar hugged Zhang Tianyu's arm excitedly and said. Zhang Tianyu looked painful, but he didn't say much, just said, hurry up and get up and have breakfast. Yu Xiaogang came and was preparing breakfast, so he had to go early. Although Zhang Tianyu had given Yu Xiaogang several props before he went to Xiandao City, during his time in Xiandao City, Zhang Tianyu would occasionally let the props take effect so that he could feel the thoughts of Zhang Tianyu and the system from a distance, and also eliminate his doubts about Zhang Tianyu in the future. But in the end, Zhang Tianyu was not at the scene and could not see Yu Xiaogang's miserable condition. Moreover, the props he gave Yu Xiaogang were all relatively low-level props with relatively ordinary effects. So now that he finally saw Yu Xiaogang again, he must seize this opportunity and let Yu Xiaogang have a good time. Okay. Oscar quickly got up, dressed and washed. Oscar used to be able to sleep in, but now he dared not sleep in. If he slept in, he was afraid that once Zhang Tianyu left, his hair would cover the bed. He must be inseparable from Zhang Tianyu now, so that he can live a normal life like before. The two went out, Tang San turned over from the roof, and the three of them walked to the cafeteria together. Because Zhang Tianyu is now temporarily living in Oscar's dormitory, Xiao Wu and the others did not come to see Zhang Tianyu in the morning. They wanted to see Zhang Tianyu, but they did not want to see Oscar, who was covered in hair, and Tang San, who was bald. When they arrived at the cafeteria, they first smelled the very fragrant smell of food, which was completely different from the past. Several people were refreshed. Is it the new year today? How can there be such fragrant food? When they stepped into the cafeteria, they found that Zhu Xiaogang, Xiao Wu and Ning Rangrang had already arrived. And it seemed that Zhu Xiaogang was the first one, because the food in her bowl was obviously less than the other two. Of course, it is also possible that Xiao Wu and Ning Rangrang have already finished one portion. After the three of them greeted each other, Xiao Wu chuckled and said, Asan, look quickly, who is cooking for us today? Tang San was stunned when he heard this, and quickly looked at the stove. At first he didn't notice it, but now he looked carefully, and found that this figure was so familiar. Yu Xiaogang turned around. Zhang Tianyu and Tang San were both surprised, and shouted in unison, Teacher. / Master. Teacher. You are here. The excitement and surprise on Tang San's face seemed real. Seeing these two young talents, Yu Xiaogang's dull face also put on a smile, nodded and said, okay, we will talk later. If there is anything, let's eat first. Zhang Tianyu smiled in his heart, finally seeing Yu Xiaogang again. He had already prepared a gift for Yu Xiaogang. Yu Xiaogang, accept my last ripple. He put his hand back into his sleeves and flicked it at Yu Xiaogang's back. Hint, Injilfa was used successfully. Zhang Tianyu laughed wildly. If someone working in the medical beauty industry hears the term Injilfa, they will definitely understand what this word means. Of course, it doesn't matter, even if you don't understand it. because it won't take long for everyone to understand the meaning of this word. This is indeed the thickest ripple. Master, the food you cook is the best. Xiao Wu said. Yes, yes, Ning Rangrang agreed immediately. It's much better than before. Then eat more. Yu Xiaogang said. You are all growing up now, and you must keep up with nutrition. Teacher, you should eat a little too. The filial Tang San said. Yes, that's right. Zhang Tianyu thought. Hurry up, let him eat more. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 78, a great first step. But on second thought, Zhang Tianyu felt that this would not work. After all, everyone had eaten these meals. If only Yu Xiaogang had some problems, it would be a bit unreasonable. So it would be better to think of other ways. Well, take it one step at a time. After all, the props have been used, and Zhang Tianyu has the final say on when it will take effect. Also, in the previous life, after Tang San and others left not in college, and before Yu Xiaogang came to Shrek College, Yu Xiaogang had a peaceful life. Then he came to Shrek College. After Zhang Tianyu and others came back from the Stardao Great Forest, Yu Xiaogang began to have bad luck. This also became a point of suspicion for Yu Xiaogang to suspect Zhang Tianyu. Therefore, in this life, we can't rush at this time, we have to take it slowly. Thinking of this, Zhang Tianyu calmed down and wolfed down the hearty breakfast like everyone else. At this time, Flanders came in and said to Yu Xiaogang, I also want to feed the children with delicacies from land and sea every day, but you are just talking nonsense. Look, where is the money in the academy now? Yu Xiaogang's expression eased a little. I don't care what difficulties the academy has, but since I have decided to stay as a teacher here, I must not let the children suffer. Flanders, please give me full authority over this matter. I will decide what these children will eat for every meal in the future. Flanders was happy. Why, Xiaogang, you decided to stay? Yu Xiaogang nodded. Whether it is for Tang San or for these little monsters you recruited, I decided to stay here for a while. I have also briefly understood your current teaching methods in the past 2 days, and there are many areas that need improvement. You said to me that day that, as long as I'm willing to stay, you can delegate power to me, right? Flanders said immediately and cheerfully, no problem, just inform me of what you want to do. You can deploy the teachers of the academy at your convenience. Of course, you must tell me where you need to spend money. The financial situation of the academy must be worse than you think. Flanders sat down and ate together very simply. After all, it was the academy's money that he spent, so there was no reason for him not to eat. While they were talking, Dame Yubei and Mahanjan also arrived. Soon, everyone finished breakfast and gathered at the academy playground. In addition to them, the other teachers also gathered. Flanders introduced everyone. After knowing the level and strength of the teachers, Tang San and others were a little shocked. Zhang Tianyu was also shocked on the surface, but he was actually complaining in his heart. Damn, it seems that these teachers are capable now. In a few chapters, you will find that these teachers are scum and can't help at all, including Flanders and Xiao Wuji. After all the introductions were completed, it was Yu Xiaogang's traditional art, giving a speech, giving everyone a number, and then letting everyone run to exercise. Of course, running was the next day. Today, we just gave speeches and numbered ourselves. Just like in the previous life, Zhang Tianyu became the third child, and the rest were postponed. Zhu King was still the 8th child. Hey, speaking of the 8th child, it was really delicious and memorable. In every sense. After the numbering was completed, everyone was allowed to disperse on the spot, rest for a day, and gather at the playground early tomorrow morning. Dame Yubei smiled and said, I didn't expect that among you guys of the same age. Xiaoyu is the 3rd child, Tang San is the 4th child, and Xiao Wu is the 6th child. Mahanjan smiled and said, come on, 3 sisters, call me the 5th brother. Xiao Wu pinched her waist and said, bring the red envelope first. Zhu King covered her face coldly and said, beat me. Ning Rangrang made a direct killing move. When you can beat Xiaogang, I will call you. After that, Xiao Wu, Tang San and Anew Bei laughed out loud. They all saw the scene of Mahanjan being beaten by Zhang Xiaogang. It is still unforgettable. Mahanjan, Ning Rangrang is a pretty girl, but she also speaks rudely. She is perfect, but unfortunately she has a big mouth. Forget it, Mahanjan said, boring himself and said no more. However, he did not propose to go to the city for a stroll this time as in the original plot. After all, some of his hobbies have been forcibly changed by Zhang Xiaonayu's props, but this plot will definitely be triggered. So Tang San took the initiative to ask, Xiaonayu, are you going to the city later? Zhang Xiaonayu asked, what are you going to do in the city? Mahanjan immediately smiled slyly, are you going to play too? Tang San was too lazy to pay attention to him, but Ning Rangrang was unforgiving again. Do you think everyone is like you? Looking at her contemptuous look, Mahanjan shrugged and said nothing more. Damu Bei can afford to provoke her, but he can't. Tang San said, I have something to do in the city. Zhang Xiaonayu thought for a moment and said, well, the special training will start tomorrow anyway, and there's nothing to do today, so I might as well go for a walk in the city. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Wu immediately said, I'll go too. Ning Rangrang naturally didn't want to be left behind. If Xiao Wu goes, what's the point of me staying in the dormitory alone? So I'll go too. As she said that, her beautiful big eyes flickered at Zhang Xiaonayu, but then a hint of embarrassment and shame appeared on her face, because the last time they went out to eat, she looked like a pregnant woman, which was really embarrassing. But this time it won't happen, absolutely not. She swore secretly in her heart. Damu Bei saw that they were all going, so he looked at Zhu Zuking. Before he could say anything, Ning Rangrang took the initiative to ask Zhu Zuking, 8th sister, are you going? Zhu Zuking didn't shake her head immediately, but showed hesitation. Seeing this, Damu Bei immediately said, I'll go too. No. Zhu Zuking showed a hint of coldness on her face. Xiao Wu said, hey, we 3 girls are going, so you don't have to go. Damu Bei looked embarrassed, but Zhang Xiaonayu and Tang San were boys. But looking at Zhu Zuking's cold expression of disgust, he finally dropped his hands helplessly, sighed helplessly, and nodded. Then you go. Zhu Zuking's eyes immediately lit up, and there was a chance to go into the city with Zhang Xiaonayu. Although there were so many people at the same time, it was also a crucial step. Seeing that Tang San was going, Mahanjan immediately said, then I'll go and have some fun too. It's rare that I have time. As soon as the voice fell, everyone looked at him with a weird look, especially Tang San, who looked at him with a hint of fear in his eyes. Zhang Xiaonayu immediately understood something. It seems that in the past few days, at some time and place he didn't know, something he didn't know seemed to have happened. Otherwise, there was no reason for Tang San to suddenly reveal such a weird expression of fear. Thinking of this, he sighed in his heart. What a pity. It's a pity that the Jianghu function is not enabled at this stage. Otherwise it would be great to record it for them. Chapter 79. See the world and unhappy again. Later, Zhang Xiaonayu suddenly thought, in the original plot, Tang San went to Soto City today to let the blacksmith shop make some parts for hidden weapons, and to make hidden weapons and distribute them to everyone. But now, everyone has not seen the power of hidden weapons. Does he have to make them and distribute them to everyone? If this is true, it would be better to trigger the plot of Ning Rangrang buying hidden weapons from him earlier, and then after Ning Fengzi gave the 5 million gold soul coins to Tang San, Zhang Xiaonayu could find a way to get them. Good guy, said the system. I haven't even released the task yet, and you are already thinking about the 5,666. Anyway, the 5 million is the main plot. Tang San will definitely get it. Even if you don't release the task, I will get it. Zhang Xiaonayu laughed in his heart. I won't let him build the Tang sect so easily and comfortably. I still want to be the same as in the last life. Whether it is his personal strength or the strength of the sect, I will make him unable to develop. You are worthy of being my host. The system praised angrily. Sure enough, after everyone arrived at Soto City, Tang San came to the blacksmith shop, planning to forge parts for hidden weapons. Although Tang San had not teamed up with Xiao Wu before, he teamed up with Ma Hongzhen, so he also fought a 2-on-2 team battle and got to know Tilang and Tihu. In the blacksmith shop, he met Tilang and Tihu, and the two brothers expressed their gratitude to Tang San for showing mercy. With this relationship, the matter of forging parts for hidden weapons was smoothly finalized. After the deal was finalized, when Tang San came out, the girls were already getting a little impatient waiting. Tang San, what business are you doing here? Ning Rangrang asked. What takes so long? Tang San smiled and said, you'll know after the things are made. But if you are really curious, you can ask Xiaogang. Xiaogang knows. Ning Rangrang and Xiao Wu originally had no interest in his mysterious things and didn't want to ask more. But when they heard that Zhang Tianyu knew, they immediately widened their watery eyes, full of curiosity and thirst for knowledge, and asked, what is it, Tianyu? Zhang Tianyu took out a set of huge magic crossbows and sleeve arrows. These are these, made by Tang San. Tang San had long regarded Zhang Tianyu as a good brother, coupled with some inexplicable feelings, so he gave some of the mechanical hidden weapons he had made before to Zhang Tianyu. Xiao Wu naturally didn't get a share. Zhang Tianyu won the fight and kept it a secret for Tang San, so he didn't tell her. Seeing these novel objects, Ning Rangrang, Xiao Wu, Zhu Xiaogang and Ma Hongzhen were all very interested. What is this? This is called Zhu's magic crossbow, and this is a sleeve arrow. Zhang Tianyu briefly introduced these things, and then tested a sleeve arrow on the bluestone next to him. Whoosh! The sleeve arrow flew out silently, at a very high speed, leaving a deep groove on the extremely hard basalt bluestone. At the same time, the sleeve arrow also flew out, drawing a beautiful arc in the air, and flying into the alley next to it. Zhang Tianyu was about to pick it up. Ning Rangrang's eyes lit up. Wow. So powerful. This thing. Ah. A scream came from the alley next to it, scaring everyone. Who? An angry voice came, and with this voice, a middle-aged man with a somewhat wretched appearance and disheveled clothes strode out. He walked with a limp, with the sleeve arrow still stuck in his buttocks, and blood stained his half-unbuttoned pants red. Everyone was stunned when they saw the sleeve arrow on his butt. Wow. Is it such a coincidence? How could the sleeve arrow that flew out hurt others so coincidentally? Zhang Tianyu looked at the middle-aged man thoughtfully and calmly opened the live map. Sure enough, this man was Boule. Damn. A wild Boule. It's not even the time for Boule to appear, but I can meet a wild Boule. What good luck. It seems that my sleeve arrow is also full of justice. Even if it just flew out, it must hit the gangsters. And looking at Boule's disheveled appearance, I guess he didn't do anything good in the alley just now. Damn, this grandson is really shameless. He is doing bad things here in broad daylight. Who is it? Boule looked at the crowd around him angrily. Who shot the arrow that hurt me? Are you looking for death? Zhang Tianyu looked up at the sky, as if it had nothing to do with him. Seeing his reaction, the others certainly would not expose him, and they all looked at the sky, saying things like the weather is really nice today. The pedestrians around looked at the angry Boule and chose to deter. Boule was helpless and furious for a long time, but when no one admitted it, he could only pull out his sleeve arrow angrily, break it with force, and throw it on the ground viciously, saying angrily, "Don't let me know who it is, otherwise, I will peel off your skin." As he said that, he glared at Zhang Tianyu and others, but there was no evidence, and there were patrols on the road in broad daylight, so he didn't dare to act blatantly. He could only curse viciously while limping away. Hey, Tianyu, this is not good, right? Xiao Wu asked in a low voice. Should we go and apologize to him and pay for his medical expenses? Zhang Tianyu touched her long hair. I have already apologized to him. Everyone was stunned. Ah. Didn't you hear it? Xiao Wu asked. I apologized to him in my heart. Anyway, I said it. If he couldn't hear it, it's not my fault. Zhang Tianyu spread his hands. Ning Rangrang and Xiao Wu burst out laughing, and Zhu Xiaogang also showed a smile on her cold face. Ma Hongzhen used his professional knowledge at this time and said, I don't think that man is a good person. When he looked at you three just now, it was like a hungry wolf looking at a little lamb. The three girls were stunned. Ning Rangrang said, could he be a stinky hooligan? If so, beat him up. Xiao Wu said. Zhu Zuking said coldly, cut it off. The three boys suddenly felt a chill in their body. At this moment, a disheveled young woman also walked out of the alley. Zhang Tianyu immediately opened the live map and scanned it. It was confirmed that this woman was a prostitute, not a decent woman. TSK, doing business in broad daylight, really dedicated. See? Mahanjan said, I said that he was not a good person, coming out to PO in broad daylight. As soon as these words came out, everyone looked at him immediately. Mahanjan realized something and argued, I'm much better than him. I always do it at night. Everyone rolled their eyes at him and gave him a collective slap on the back of their heads. Mahanjan didn't care about the attitude of the crowd, but looked at Tang San. He actually didn't say another sentence. That was in the past. Now I'm not interested in those women. Chapter 80. You just found out. A pleasant day passed happily. The next morning, everyone came to the cafeteria early to eat a hearty breakfast. Eating stewed meat early in the morning was unheard of, but to be honest, it tasted really good. But so what? Even if Yu Xiaogang cooked deliciously, it would not stop him from being cheated. After eating and drinking, everyone gathered in the playground. Yu Xiaogang swept his cold eyes over everyone. I have learned about your respective martial arts and abilities. Starting from today, I will conduct intensive training for you. Zhang Tianyu, step out. Zhang Tianyu was in high spirits and walked out of the team with his head held high. I will give you a task. Knock down the 7 of them one by one without breaking any bones. Yu Xiaogang ordered. Ah. Zhang Tianyu was stunned. What's wrong? Yu Xiaogang looked at him. Your martial soul is a mutant martial soul. The strength of the mutation is higher than I have ever seen. Your strength cannot be measured simply by the soul power level. Besides, you have reached the soul sect level now. They are only level 37 at most. Don't you have confidence? Zhang Tianyu looked at everyone. No, I have confidence. After saying that, he looked up and looked directly at Yu Xiaogang's inquiring eyes and said, what I mean is that it is too easy to knock them down one by one. Why not let them come together? Damn. When everyone heard this, their expressions suddenly became wonderful. If Yu Xiaogang was not present, I'm afraid that Damu Bei and Mahanjan would have come out directly. Yu Xiaogang frowned slightly. Are you sure? I also want to try to see how strong I am. If I just knock them down one by one, it can't be detected at all. Zhang Tianyu said, turning back and blinking at everyone. Damu Bei and Mahanjan immediately clenched their fists and raised their arms. The meaning was very clear. Good boy, you are so arrogant. I will teach you a lesson later. Of course, they didn't really want to fight Zhang Tianyu. They just wanted to show that they were not that weak. Xiao Wu and the other 3 girls were a little worried. 1 against 7. And the 7 of them had strong attacks, quick attacks, control, healing and support. They were a perfect team. Can Zhang Tianyu really do it? Yu Xiaogang thought for a while and nodded. Okay, it's a good thing to see the gap between each other. But, Tang San, step out. Tang San came out. Yu Xiaogang looked at him and said, don't use your special weapons. Yes, teacher. Tang San didn't plan to use them. He knew the danger of those hidden weapons better than anyone else. This was just a competition, not a fight to the death. Tianyu was still his good brother. How could he use hidden weapons against Zhang Tianyu? Okay, then get ready and start. The sun was shining, and the breeze was warm, blowing the 8 people on the playground with their clothes fluttering, and their long hair flying. Zhang Tianyu was alone, facing the 7 people opposite, looking a little lonely. Ning Rangrang said with some worry, do we really have to fight 7 against 1? What if Tianyu gets hurt? Damu Bei looked at her with a look of madness and said, you should worry about yourself first. When the battle starts, you will definitely be the first person that Tianyu will take care of. There is nothing wrong with what he said. It is common sense to kill the healer and the support first in a team battle. Ning Rangrang pouted her lips, rolled her eyes at him, and ignored him. Although she didn't show any expression on the surface, she was already very happy in her heart. The first person that Tianyu will take care of, the person. Hehe. At Yu Xiaogang's command, Zhang Tianyu directly activated the fourth soul skill. In the name of the sword, 7 illusory swords floated around him and rotated. Zhang Tianyu's momentum instantly became extremely powerful and terrifying. At this moment, Damu Bei and the other 7 actually had the illusion of facing the god of death. The 7 treasures are famous. As Ning Rangrang's blessing fell, Damu Bei, Xiao Wu and Zhu Zuking quickly attacked Zhang Tianyu from 3 different directions. At the same time, the ground in front of Zhang Tianyu also trembled, and the blue-silver grass broke out of the ground, winding towards Zhang Tianyu like a long snake. For these attacks, Zhang Tianyu had 4 words: fancy. With a wave of his sword finger, 4 illusory swords whizzed away, and 3 swords flew past the necks of Damu Bei, Xiao Wu and Zhu Zuking, scaring the 3 people into a cold sweat. The 4th flying sword flew past the ground, cutting all the blue-silver grass into pieces, and then flew straight towards Tang San. Tang San's eyes condensed and quickly dodged. However, his dodging exposed Ning Rangrang behind him. Oh no. When Tang San realized this, it was too late, and the flying sword had already landed on Ning Rangrang's snow-white neck. Ning Rangrang, out. Yu Xiaogang's voice rang out. Ning Rangrang glanced at Tang San in annoyance. Tang San's face was full of pain. Damn it, I fell into a trap. I should have thought of it earlier. Zhang Tianyu chuckled. At this time, Damu Bei and the other 2 also came in front of him. Zhu Zuking made an ethereal stab from the left, Xiao Wu made a waist bow from the right, and Damu Bei made a white tiger fierce light wave from the front. Zhang Tianyu's smile remained unchanged, and he jumped into the air at a speed faster than Zhu Zuking. In midair, Huangquan flew out of the void and landed steadily at his feet. Whoosh! He flew away from the 3 people's encirclement with Huangquan, heading straight for Tang San. Ning Rangrang had been dealt with, and Oscar was left. Oscar's flying mushroom sausage was also very troublesome, and had to be dealt with. Seeing Zhang Tianyu flying to the back of the formation, Damu Bei and the other 2 were shocked, and quickly turned back to help. At the same time, Tang San's 3rd soul skill lit up, spider web binding. A spider web exploded in the air, blocking Zhang Tianyu's way, and wrapping him up. Zhang Tianyu still commented on this in 4 words. Fancy. An illusory sword flew out from the side, and with a sizzling sound, the spider web was directly cut in half. Tang San and Yu Xiaogang's eyes jumped. It must be said that Zhang Tianyu's strength is really too terrifying. He is simply killing gods and buddhas. What shocked them even more was yet to come. Zhang Tianyu looked back and saw that Damu Bei and the other 2 had already caught up with him. Mahanjan also released the phoenix fire line towards him. He simply stopped in midair. 3rd soul skill, life-chasing sword key. Whoosh. All 7 illusory swords flew back to his body and spun rapidly around him. With each rotation, dozens of sword ki would shoot out from the 7 illusory swords and whiz towards the other 6 people on the field. Damu Bei and the other 6 were completely stunned. Damn. Can this be done? This is a big move. Looking up, the sky was full of terrifying sword ki. It was over. It was over. What the hell was going on with this? Alright. Yu Xiaogang's voice rang out, and the sword ki in the sky instantly stopped in midair. Yu Xiaogang looked at Zhang Tianyu and said, "It seems that they are indeed no match for you." Chapter 81. Improve your impression. Damu Bei and the other 7 stood in front of Yu Xiaogang with some dismay. "You don't have to take today's defeats to heart," Yu Xiaogang said slowly. "Zhang Tianyu's mutant martial soul is already very strong, and his soul power is stronger than yours, so it is normal for you to be defeated by him." As he spoke, Yu Xiaogang muttered in his heart, "What kind of monster is this kid Zhang Tianyu? He has clearly used such a high-intensity soul skill, and it is reasonable that his soul power should have been exhausted, and his body should be weak at this moment. But why does he still look energetic and unaffected? Is this mutant martial soul so strong? Why is his martial soul so strong after mutation, and my martial soul is so useless after mutation?" Hearing what Yu Xiaogang said, everyone's mood also improved a little. Yes, Zhang Tianyu's strength is already so strong. What's so shameful about losing to a strong man? If we work hard to catch up, won't we become a strong man one day? But, Yu Xiaogang suddenly changed the subject. His expression became stern. "Tang San, what do you think? Tang San had already prepared for criticism and bowed his head and said, "Yes, teacher, I made a big mistake today." "Then tell me where you went wrong." "When Xianyu's attack came, when I was dodging, I should have used the blue silver grass to lead the auxiliary spirit master behind me to dodge together." Tang San said obediently. Yu Xiaogang's expression eased a little, and he nodded. "It seems that you realize that this mistake is fatal. If it was an enemy just now, Ning Rangrang would have been a corpse at this moment." "And you?" Yu Xiaogang then looked at Ning Rangrang. "What are you doing?" "Tang San didn't take you to dodge. Can't you dodge by yourself?" Ning Rangrang blushed, secretly glanced at the handsome Zhang Tianyu, and then quickly lowered her head. At that time, her mind was full of the joy of being the first person to be taken care of by Zhang Tianyu, and she didn't react at all. Yu Xiaogang did not blame her too much. He was also an experienced person. Judging from Ning Rangrang's performance just now, he felt that Ning Rangrang was in love and lost her mind for a while. "I really admire these teenagers with overflowing hormones." Then Yu Xiaogang looked at Oscar. "You made a big mistake. You knew that Zhang Tianyu had the ability to fly, and you had a flying mushroom sausage. Why didn't you prepare in advance?" With the help of the speed of the flying mushroom sausage, when Zhang Tianyu finally used his sword energy, you had a chance to dodge and then counterattack at the right time. Oscar shrank his neck and bowed his head to admit his mistake. Then Yu Xiaogang talked about everyone's shortcomings and mistakes, even Zhang Tianyu. "Tianyu, a lion needs to fight a rabbit with all its strength. Even if it is a competition, you must go all out and don't let it go. It's best to defeat the opponent in one encounter." "Yes, master." Zhang Tianyu called master, but he was cursing in his heart. "You damn it, don't I understand this truth? If we really face an enemy, I know without your teaching that it would be very satisfying and safe to kill the opponent right away. But isn't today's competition also for the purpose of testing the strength of the 7 people? I'm going all out right away, so how can I test their strength? Don't you think before you speak? You're really addicted to pretending to be cool. Wait for me, you bastard. Wait a few days for the right time, and let you experience my thickest ripples." Yu Xiaogang is really addicted to pretending to be cool, and said with a cold face, "Is this the so-called monster genius? Your performance today disappointed me. Everyone has made an unforgivable mistake, and now, all of you will be punished. Run forward. Supervise each other and do not use spirit power. Run from the academy to Soto City and back, and before lunch, I require you to run 10 rounds. When you finish running, you can eat." "Tang San, your mistake is the most serious, so you run 12 rounds. Act immediately and start." Tang San ran out first. The master's words were no different from orders to him. The others followed closely. The master punished even his own direct disciples, and the punishment was the heaviest. What else could they say? Ning Rangrang didn't intend to run, but when she saw Zhang Tianyu running out, she gritted her teeth and followed him. There are rocks prepared at the gate of the academy. Each of you carries a rock and runs with the weight. You must remember that you are a team. If one person fails to complete the punishment, then everyone will have no food. Yu Xiaogang's voice came from behind. When they arrived at the gate, bamboo baskets with their names on them had been placed. Zhang Tianyu took a look and found it was really humane. Among all the bamboo baskets, his was the largest and contained the most rocks. Daimyu Bei and Tang San's were second only to his. Without saying a word, everyone carried the bamboo baskets on their backs and ran towards the direction of Soto City. Everything has 2 sides. For example, the punishment this time made Zhang Tianyu feel a little unhappy, but there was nothing he could do about it. This was a plot that was bound to be triggered. He couldn't avoid it. He could only put all the blame on Yu Xiaogang and let him have a good time in a few days. But the other side of this matter was that he could take the opportunity to improve Ning Rangrang and Zhu Zuking's favorability. In his previous life, he waited until he arrived at Xiandao City, and it was not until a while after he arrived at Xiandao City that he managed to get Ning Rangrang and Zhu Zuking into bed. In this life, he wanted to get them both before Xiandao City, so he started to improve his favorability. Stop for a moment. Zhang Tianyu stopped and stopped Daimyu Bei and Tang San who were following him. What's wrong? Both of them had sweat on their foreheads. but Zhang Tianyu showed no signs of fatigue at all. It can only be said that people with golden fingers are awesome in every sense. Zhang Tianyu looked behind him. The three of them were running in the front, and the others had fallen far behind. Oscar was too far away from Zhang Tianyu, and the hair on his body began to grow faster, which made him very anxious. But he was embarrassed to call Zhang Tianyu. Now seeing Zhang Tianyu stopped, he quickly quickened his pace and followed him. The master said that we are a whole. If one person fails to complete it, no one will be allowed to eat. So it's useless if only the three of us complete it. Damu Bei and Tang San suddenly realized, yes. At this time, the others also came over. Zhang Tianyu repeated Tang San's words in the original plot and said, "Rang Grong, give me some of the stones in the basket." Ning Rang Grong was immediately overjoyed. Sparkling red hearts appeared in her two big eyes. Look, the girl's favor ability has been brushed over. Chapter 82. Tang San is really dizzy. But girls should be reserved, and they have just started running. If she asks Zhang Tianyu to help share the weight now, she will seem too delicate and pretentious. She knows that Zhang Tianyu will definitely not like girls who are too pretentious. After all, Xiao Wu is not that pretentious. So she decisively said, "Thanks, Tianyu, but it's not necessary now. I still have a lot of energy now." Xiao Wu said, "How about this? From now on, let's run at a constant speed according to the slowest speed, so that everyone can gather together, and a constant speed is the most energy saving. When someone can't hold on, they can help each other adjust the weight. In this way, they can save as much energy as possible. What do you think?" Ning Rang Grong looked at Xiao Wu. "Thank you, my good sister." Of course, the slowest runner was Ning Rang Grong. Zhang Tianyu looked at Xiao Wu with appreciation. "Good girl. I wanted to say this line for Oscar, but you said it for me. Although your words may not be as effective as mine, they are worse than Oscar's. I have no objection." Oscar said it first. It's not that he is also considering Ning Rang Grong, but he is considering himself. After all, once the distance between him and Zhang Tianyu is too far, the hair on his body will grow wildly. When Zhang Tianyu went to the city yesterday, he basically did nothing all day, just shaved. The others also nodded in agreement. Zhang Tianyu made the decision, since everyone has no objection, let's do it this way. Ning Rang Grong said a little embarrassedly, "I'm still a burden to everyone." Everyone looked at her in surprise. They didn't expect this little witch to say such a thing. Of course, she said this to win Zhang Tianyu's favor. Xiao Wu is well behaved, sensible and not pretentious. She must be more well behaved and sensible than Xiao Wu, so that she has a chance to become big. Don't say that. Zhang Tianyu's expression suddenly became serious. Seeing his serious look, everyone's expressions were also startled. "We Shrek are a team, a whole," Zhang Tianyu said. "Since we are a whole, we must have strengths and weaknesses, and everyone will be inferior to others sometimes. So, no one is a burden, no one will drag others down. We must work hard together, fight together, and succeed together." Everyone's emotions were mobilized, and their eyes became bright. Tianyu is right. Damu Bei was the first to respond. No one is a burden. Work hard together. Fight together. Succeed together. First of all, let's complete this punishment together. At this moment, everyone was full of energy and strode towards Soto City again. Zhang Tianyu's face was full of energy, and he laughed wildly in his heart. Zhu Zuking's favor ability also improved a lot. This favor ability is so easy to brush. Wonderful. Sure enough, if you want to pick up girls, the best and most direct way is to be a star in the group, because women have a natural admiration for the strong. If you become the backbone or leader of the team, and make some correct decisions, or can improve everyone's morale, you will naturally gain the favor of girls. Of course, the premise is that you must have the strength and brains to match it. If you don't know anything, and can only give orders blindly, or show off your power, not only will no one like you, but you will be hated. Back and forth again and again, the stones in everyone's basket are constantly changing. By the 10th round trip, the stones in Zhang Tianyu's basket are already higher than his. "Tianyu, give me some." Xiao Wu looked at him with some heartache. Zhang Tianyu shook his head. "I'm fine. Don't talk. Keep your breath." Ning Rangrang's tired little face was pale. She didn't want Zhang Tianyu to help her carry so many, but among these 8 people, her physical strength was really the worst. Sorry, Tianyu. Ning Rangrang looked at Zhang Tianyu's basket with so many stones, and her eyes were a little red. Xiaowu felt distressed, and she felt distressed too. It's okay. Zhang Tianyu smiled. Come on, we are almost done. It has to be said that at this time, the importance of having a good backbone can be seen. Zhang Tianyu cheered everyone up from time to time, and helped share the weight. Although the process was bumpy, the result was very good. Everyone persisted. At the gate of Shrek Academy, except Zhang Tianyu, everyone was either lying on the ground, sitting or lying on the ground. They were all breathing in and out like crazy like cows with asthma. Only Zhang Tianyu, although there was sweat on his face, but not much, was standing aside with brisk steps, as if to relieve muscle soreness. Yu Xiaogang glanced at him. Damn, this is a real monster. He ran so many times with weight, and his basket had the most stones and the heaviest weight. After coming back, he could still do the relaxation exercise like nothing happened. When others saw this scene, their admiration for Zhang Tianyu deepened. This is a real monster. What kind of terrifying physical fitness is this? What kind of terrifying physical strength? However, this admiration and doubt did not last long, because Tang San still had a punishment to complete, so he took out the extra weight in the basket, stood up with only the weight that belonged to him, and prepared to complete the rest of the punishment. As a good brother, Zhang Tianyu naturally could not sit idly by, so he walked to his side and said, "Come on, brother will accompany you." Tang San was grateful, and then Dainu Bei also came over. "I will accompany you too." The others also wanted to react, but the next second, they all rolled their eyes and fainted on the ground. Is Tang San pretending? Zhang Tianyu asked the system in his heart. Why don't you try it yourself? The system said. Zhang Tianyu took out the urgent urine tablet, pointed it at Tang San's very hidden finger and flicked it. A few seconds later, swish swish, Tang San's body was wet, but he still didn't react. It seems that he is really dizzy, Zhang Tianyu said, otherwise he would not allow himself to be so socially dead. At this time, Flanders and other teachers also appeared beside Yu Xiaogang, giving him a thumbs up. "You are so cruel." Yu Xiaogang ignored them and waved his hand. "Take them there." "Where to, master? I can go by myself," Zhang Tianyu said. "Go back to the dormitory," Yu Xiaogang said in a gentle tone. "I have prepared a medicinal bath for you. I don't know when they will wake up. After you soak in the medicinal bath for 2 hours, come to the cafeteria for dinner. P.S. Oh, it hurts. I just had 2 positives last month, and I have a fever again these days. I feel that my immune system is going to collapse. Today, my head is buzzing, painful and dizzy. I can see double images when looking at the computer screen. It's too hard for me. I can only say one thing, be careful when playing in the water outside. Never let the water outside flow into your eyes or mouth. God knows what bacteria and viruses are in the water. I wish you all good health." Chapter 83, Tang San is so tired that he peed. As soon as the voice fell, Xiao Wuji, who was responsible for carrying Tang San, frowned and said, "Good guy." Flanders and Yu Xiaogang looked at him and asked, "What's wrong?" Xiao Wuji raised his thumb to Yu Xiaogang. "Master, you are really cruel. You made Tang San pee." Ah. Several teachers and Zhang Tianyu present were stunned. Then they quickly came to Tang San to check. Sure enough, there was a water stain under Tang San's body, and there was also a foul smell. It was obviously urine. Besides, even if there was no smell, so many water stains could only be urine. It's impossible that he sweated so much at once. Besides, sweating is all over the body. How could there be sweat in that place? Seeing this scene, Yu Xiaogang's expression was a bit complicated and a bit exciting. Damn, this Tang San is a bit unreliable. How come he peed after running so much? Alas. Regret. If only he had accepted Zhang Tianyu as his disciple. Look at Zhang Tianyu. He is only 12 years old now, but he is already at the level of soul sect, and he would not do such a shameful thing in public. Even others are exhausted. Tang San is tired and peed, but Zhang Tianyu is still fine. Look, this is the disciple that the strong dream of. Whoever can have such a student will definitely be famous in the mainland. Seeing Xiao Wuji's resistance, Yu Xiaogang could only choose to bear it himself. He silently picked up Tang San. You can send the others back to the dormitory. When picking up Tang San, Zhang Tianyu clearly saw that Tang San's urine stained Yu Xiaogang's clothes, and a lot of water dripped on his clothes, and even dripped on his hands. Zhang Tianyu clearly saw that his eyes twitched, but it returned to normal in just a moment. He didn't dare to neglect Tang San at all. Who knows if Tang Hao was watching nearby at this time. Tang San was so tired from the special training that he peed his pants. If Tang Hao was watching nearby, he would definitely be angry with him. So at this time, he had to be extremely careful, and he had to be more respectful and cautious than when he hugged his biological father. If Tang San fell again at this time, Tang Hao would definitely not let him go. However, Murphy's law, let no one go. What Yu Xiaogang feared would come true, and Tang Hao was watching from the side at this time. Even when they went to the Xingdao Great Forest before, Tang Hao also followed in the dark. He only had this one son. If he didn't keep a good eye on him, what if something went wrong? When he was in the forest, he saw that the Titan Ape came out specifically to find Xiao Wu, and didn't intend to hurt anyone else, so he didn't make a move. However, things have two sides. Tang Hao has been following, and saw Tang San being tired by Yu Xiaogang. This is a good thing for Zhang Tianyu, but there is always such a pair of eyes staring at Xiao Wu in the dark, which makes him a little unhappy. His level is rising too fast, while Tang San's level is rising too slowly. If it continues like this, it is estimated that one day in the future, Tang Hao will worry that he will reach level 70 early, and then take Xiao Wu away, and keep her in captivity. So what are you going to do? The system asked. Hurry up and turn on the Jianghu function for me, Zhang Tianyu said. The system was silent for 2 seconds and then replied, it has been put on the agenda. There is a high probability that the Jianghu function will be rewarded in a series of tasks in the future. At this time, Zhang Tianyu had also followed the teacher to Tang San's dormitory. Several teachers knew the special nature of Oscar, so they had already placed Zhang Tianyu's bathtub here. After taking off his clothes and entering the bathtub, the feeling of comfort instantly spread throughout his body. Zhang Tianyu couldn't help but let out a long breath and lay comfortably in the bathtub. Then he suddenly thought of something and asked, Sister Tangzi, didn't I trigger a task called Secret of Time in my last life? I feel that the reward at the end of that task will be very fierce. Can I receive that task again in this life? The series of tasks of Secret of Time are difficult and troublesome to complete, but Zhang Tianyu guessed that if he could complete it, he would most likely get the ability to control time. Unfortunately, after being reborn once, this task was gone. The system replied, this is uncertain, because that task is not something I can issue, but something that someone else entrusted to me. If you can trigger certain conditions, you can probably still trigger it. Then can you tell me what I can get after completing that task? Zhang Tianyu asked. I know you have confidentiality regulations, so just give me a rough idea. After a dozen seconds of silence, the system replied, you will get a replica of a key, or a replica of a door. Ah. Zhang Tianyu was confused. Key? Door? Isn't it about controlling time? How did it become something so inexplicable? Could it be a master key? Or an arbitrary door? Time and space govern. Everything returns to one. The system continued to speak obscure words, and after 5 seconds of silence, that's all I can say. What you said is the same as not saying anything. Zhang Tianyu was helpless. I asked you to give a rough idea, but you didn't say it roughly. I can continue to talk, the system said. The premise is that you can accept the long-term companionship of a crazy system for the rest of your life. Forget it. Zhang Tianyu realized the seriousness of the matter. I won't ask anymore. Anyway, even if there is no such task, as long as I stay alive and develop well, I can still beat those gods in the future. That's right. This is Zhang Tianyu's ultimate goal in this life, to beat those damn gods and avenge. A drop of water, a drop of hatred, must be repaid with a spring. After a few hours, Zhang Tianyu slowly opened his eyes and stretched comfortably. I'm hungry, let's go eat. After washing and walking out of the dormitory, the sun was already setting. Zhang Tianyu thought for a moment, summoned Huang Quan, pointed at Oscar. Huang Quan released a black death aura that penetrated Oscar's body. Oscar was shocked, but did not wake up. Zhang Tianyu was not kind, but was worried that Oscar's hair would grow too long, absorb too much water, and become too heavy, and eventually drown in the bathtub. After all, the more toys, the better. Seeing a black line on Oscar's chest, Zhang Tianyu looked worried, sneered in his heart, and turned to leave the dormitory. Zhang Tianyu got up the earliest. The sunset outside had not yet set, and everyone else had to wait until the evening to get up. He came to the cafeteria, and Yu Xiaogang had been waiting for a long time, and smiled. "I knew you would be the first to come. Master, you have worked hard." Zhang Tianyu rushed to the food with excitement. Watching Zhang Tianyu eat voraciously, Yu Xiaogang had a kind and gentle smile on his face. "It's still good to be young. You are so motivated to eat. It's more motivated to cheat people." Chapter 84. Yu Xiaogang wet the bed. Time passed by, and everyone woke up one by one. Just like the original plot, the girls were responsible for washing dishes, and the boys were responsible for pouring water. To be honest, Zhang Tianyu didn't know why these three girls agreed to this. Bath water is also a very private thing. What you wash down can be seen by others at a glance. Think about it, a girl who looks clean and white on weekdays, but when she looks at the bathtub, she sees a thick layer of plaster. TSK. You are, of course, the bathtubs of the Shrek 3 beauties are still very clean. As night fell, everyone was full and returned to their dormitories. They followed Yu Xiaogang's instructions and practiced their soul power. Only Zhang Tianyu was watching a movie. The night was spent peacefully. This night was very peaceful for others, but for Yu Xiaogang, it was not peaceful at all. Lying on the bed, Yu Xiaogang was a little worried and couldn't sleep. He was not afraid of anything else, but he was afraid that Tang Heo would come to the door. But until almost midnight, the surroundings were very quiet, and nothing wrong happened. Yu Xiaogang was relieved and planned to go to sleep. However, not long after he fell asleep, he suddenly felt something was wrong. He opened his eyes, and found to his horror, that he had left his room without knowing when. At this moment, he was in a dark space. It was pitch black all around, extremely depressing, and there was no sound. And it was not just visual stimulation. After a few seconds, he even began to feel short of breath, as if he was suffocating. What's going on? The feeling of suffocation became more and more intense and terrifying. Even his head began to buzz. The eyes were no longer pitch black, but because of lack of oxygen and suffocation, many strange and colorful colors appeared. "It's over." An idea appeared in his confused head. "I'm going to die. I'm suffocating to death." Suddenly, he felt hot under his crotch, and then a warm and cool feeling. Yes, he also peed. When a person is suffocating, the brain lacks oxygen, so urinary incontinence may occur. Yu Xiaogang is experiencing this situation at the moment. Along with urinary incontinence, the feeling of suffocation becomes weaker and weaker, and he can finally breathe fresh air again. He gasped hard, and the feeling of suffocation became weaker and weaker, and finally disappeared completely. Everything returned to normal, and he suddenly opened his eyes, and then he realized that it was just a nightmare. But if it was a nightmare, it would be too real. The feeling of suffocation in the dream is even more real than reality. What's more real is that he now feels that his pants and bedding are a little wet, and then he suddenly shudders all over. Could it be? Exclamation mark. He quickly lifted the quilt and took a look. Sure enough, his pants, bed and bedding were all wet. That's right. He didn't pee in a dream, but really peed. Damn it. What's going on? Exclamation mark. Wasn't it just a dream? Why did he really wet the bed? Wet the bed? Yu Xiaogang's face was filled with grief and indignation. He was a middle-aged man, but he still wet the bed. If this got out, he would have no place to put his face. Just when he was full of doubts, a sudden light bulb went off in his mind. Suffocation? Nightmare? Wetting the bed? Thinking back to the day when Tang San peed, because of the special training, his hair stood on end and goosebumps appeared all over his body. There is no need to ask, it must have been done by Tang Heo. This must be Tang Heo coming to avenge him. Tang Heo is a titled Douluo, and taking his life is like playing, just in the blink of an eye. And it is also very easy to avenge him, and make him wet the bed. As long as he releases a little bit of the titled Douluo's aura of deterrence, he can suffocate this little precious thing of level 29 and scare him to wet the bed. So it must be that Tang Heo was nearby just now, or simply went into his room directly, making him breathless, suffocating to the point of wetting the bed, and almost suffocating to death in the end. Thinking of this, Yu Xiaogang's face turned pale and his pupils were dilated, but his heart gradually accumulated anger. Tang Heo, you bastard, you are so petty. Although Tang San was tired and incontinent today, it was because he didn't calculate Tang San's physical strength. But what? But Tang Heo only looked at the damage he caused to Tang San, and didn't look at his care for Tang San over the years. For so many years, he had no children, and he simply treated Tang San as his own son, and took care of him the same way. What was the result? He didn't need Tang Heo to think about his feelings, but at least when such a mistake occurred, Tang Heo shouldn't be so petty, and come to settle the score. Okay. Only look at other people's bad, don't think about their good. What kind of person is this? Although Zhang Tianyu didn't know what happened in the end, and what the details were, but he knew that Yu Xiaogang must be very unhappy at the moment, because he saw through the map that Tang Heo went to Yu Xiaogang's dormitory. At this time, Tang Heo couldn't go to Yu Xiaogang to talk about love, right? Hehehe. Zhang Tianyu actually originally wanted to take action on Tang Heo's behalf. If Tang Heo didn't take action, or let Yu Xiaogang wet the bed every night these few days. However, if he did that, his identity as the mastermind behind the scenes would be exposed. After all, although everyone is asleep at night, the gods and Douluo will not sleep, and will keep an eye on everything here. Therefore, Zhang Tianyu's current code of conduct is to do everything possible to take action if he can. But if he cannot take action, he will never take action, even if there is only a slight risk of being exposed. The next morning, everyone came to the playground early to gather. Very good, you all came very quickly today. Yu Xiaogang was still full of pretentiousness. I'm very satisfied with your actions yesterday. Although some people did not complete the punishment, I'm satisfied that I saw the spirit of not abandoning and not giving up from you. As partners, how can we let each other trust each other? What is needed is trust. You all did a good job. The trust in each other allowed you to complete yesterday's test better. Before today's training begins, Tang San, go and complete your punishment first. When saying this, Zhang Tianyu clearly felt that Yu Xiaogang was gritting his teeth. Then he almost died. Yes, teacher. Tang San did not complain at all and ran out. Zhang Tianyu was afraid that he would laugh, so he immediately followed him. Tang San was stunned and turned back to ask, Tianyu, we are a team, a whole, I will accompany you. Zhang Tianyu patted Tang San's shoulder with great righteousness. Anyway, there is no need to carry weight, and the energy used as Huangquan. Tang San was immediately moved. Thank you, Tianyu. The others naturally followed suit. Yu Xiaogang looked at their backs in astonishment, and was somewhat moved. They are all good children. Especially Tianyu. He is a good child among good children. Yu Xiaogang was filled with emotion in his heart. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 85 Tang San, Dam Zio Wu. Grand Wet level officially began. In addition to physical training such as weighted long distance running and weighted mountain climbing, everyone also has 1-on-1, 2-on-2 and 1-on-7 combat training. During the training, Zhang Tianyu couldn't help but think of another book he had read before. That book was 2 or 3 years earlier than Douluo Continent, and the content style was completely different from Douluo. The people in it had magic, fighting spirit and aura. The protagonist created an invincible iron army through the extreme devilish physical training of his subordinates. From this, Zhang Tianyu began to think seriously. As a basic physical training, is it helpful to improve strength? Soon he had the answer. It is helpful. It is very helpful, but only for supporting roles and extras. For a wall hanger like him with a system gold finger, there is no need to train physical fitness specifically. During this time, Zhang Tianyu certainly did not forget to give Yu Xiaogang little surprises in life from time to time. For example, he would suddenly sneeze while eating, and then a big snot would gush out of his nostrils and fly onto Flanders' glasses, and then Flanders would suddenly sneeze again, and the snot and saliva would spray on Yu Xiaogang's face, and then Yu Xiaogang would sneeze again, and Flanders would sneeze another one, and they would shoot each other passionately, back and forth, until one of them couldn't bear it and left the battlefield. This is the little surprise effect of sneeze infectious agent. For example, when drinking water, he suddenly couldn't help laughing for no reason, and then he was choked by the water and coughed and burped violently. This is the little surprise effect of laugh nimmer. 4. Example, occasionally let Yu Xiaogang also experience the little surprise effect of urgent urine tablets, so that he would pee in his pants the second before entering the toilet and unbuttoning his belt, and also for example. In short, Yu Xiaogang's surprises will not stop. Zhang Tianyu and the system are still the same as always. They still like and are keen to create all kinds of surprises for Yu Xiaogang, so that his life is never boring and never dull. This is AI. 3 months passed in a flash, and Yu Xiaogang has become accustomed to the various little surprises that often appear in daily life. Yes, in this life, he is really used to it, unlike in the previous life, when he was more like being forced to get used to it. However, it may also be because Zhang Tianyu has not used those powerful and outrageous props for him. Hasn't Invincible been used? The system asked. Oh, yes. Zhang Tianyu slapped his thigh. This is a tough job. Can't forget this. You almost forgot it. The system complained helplessly. No, I definitely didn't forget, Zhang Tianyu said, bracing himself. He's been in the academy all this time, so there's no chance for him to experience the effect of this item. Now, we are going to the Soto City Soul Arena. When the time comes, hehe. If Zhang Tianyu had regained his 5th soul skill, it would be much easier to trick Yu Xiaogang, but unfortunately, he didn't have the 5th soul skill yet, so he had to think of something else. Finally, it's a holiday. Oscar slumped his head on the bed and then fainted. Tang San and Zhang Tianyu rolled their eyes at the same time, looking at this useless look. Forget it, he was always complaining about being tired during training, and now he finally has 7 days off. No wonder he's so excited. Tang San said, Asan, what are you going to do in these 7 days? Zhang Tianyu asked. Tang San thought for a while. I'm going to continue practicing and find time to assemble the parts I received. Zhang Tianyu nodded, pinched his chin, and looked embarrassed. What's wrong, Tianyu? Tang San asked immediately. Zhang Tianyu pondered for a moment, looked at his head, then looked at Oscar, sighed, and said, I'm thinking about what you will do in the future. As soon as these words came out, Tang San's eyes suddenly turned red. Yes, that's right. 3 months. 3 whole months have passed. His head is still bald, shiny and bright, as if it was smeared with oil, shining. The same is true for his body. All over his body, any part, any place, there is not a single hair. This problem still needs to be faced. Oscar is in the same situation. As long as Zhang Tianyu is not by his side, and he doesn't need Huan Quan's Black Death energy to suppress it, then his hair will grow wildly. Although because of the influence of Huan Quan's death energy, the growth rate of body hair is not as exaggerated as at the beginning, but it still only takes more than an hour for Oscar to become a monster with body hair longer than 1 meter. In the past, this process might not even take half an hour. Tang San sighed and wiped his moist eyes. I don't know what to do. It's been 3 months, and the dean and teachers still don't have any solution. Of course you can't have any solution, because this is what I did with the system props. Even the gods are helpless. Zhang Tianyu sighed, was silent for a while, and said, I really can't do anything about you, but as for Xiaoyao, I feel that his current condition is not very good. Oscar had been affected by the Yellow Springs death energy for a long time, so even after 3 months of physical training and daily nutritional supplements of big fish and meat, he did not become ruddy and energetic like the others, but his face became paler, even his lips were a little pale, and the circles around his eyes were getting darker and darker. Although his body looked thinner and stronger, Zhang Tianyu, Tang San, Flanders and others could clearly perceive that the vitality in his body was no longer as prosperous and vigorous as that of a teenager, but like a middle-aged or elderly person in his 30s or 50s, weak. Tang San looked at Oscar, who was still unconscious, and a touch of sadness flashed across his face, a sadness of the rabbit's death and the fox's grief. Because he, like Oscar, experienced this strange event when he was absorbing the third soul ring. I really don't want to let Huang Quan suppress his hair growth anymore, Zhang Tianyu continued. If that happens, he might die before he graduates. Tang San said, he knows it very well, but it seems that he would rather let the death energy erode him than turn into a hairy monster. The two were silent for a while. Zhang Tianyu sighed, summoned Huang Quan, pointed at Oscar. A black gas shot out from the tip of Huang Quan's sword and sank into Oscar's body. Then I'll go to Soto City first. Xiao Wu and the others are still waiting for me. I'll come back in the evening, Zhang Tianyu said. Tang San nodded. Go, be careful. Watching Zhang Tianyu walk away, Tang San looked sad. At this moment he envied Xiao Wu so much. Damn. Xiao Wu obviously upgraded and got the spirit ring when she was in the Stardow Great Forest, but why didn't she become bald? Chapter 86, No Door to Hell. 3 months of devilish training. Every day everyone was exhausted, so in the past 3 months, Mahanjan's evil fire has not risen once. Now it's vacation, his evil fire began to rise again. In addition, he knew that Zhang Tianyu, who had always scared him, went to Soto City with a few girls today and was not in Tang San's dormitory, so he set his sights on Tang San again. At this moment, Tang San was busy assembling hidden weapons in the dormitory, and Oscar was sleeping next to him. After seeing Tang San's hidden weapons, Mahanjan was a little afraid of Tang San, so when he saw the hidden weapons in Tang San's hand, Mahanjan was a little scared for a while. After thinking about it, he decided not to disturb Tang San now, or wait until one night, when Zhang Tianyu is not in this dormitory and Tang San is asleep, he will find a chance to try it. But what should I do if the evil fire rises? After thinking about it, I decided to go to Soto City to try. Maybe 3 months have passed, and now he likes girls again. Even if you still don't like girls, there are prostitutes in Soto City. You can just try to find a prostitute. I don't believe it. Do I have to be with Tang San? Thinking of this, Mahanjan encouraged himself fiercely and turned to leave the academy. Looking at the map, Mahanjan left the academy and headed towards Soto City. Zhang Tianyu nodded secretly. It seemed that he finally gave up Tang San. But why? Today he took 3 girls out shopping. Damu Bei was very depressed because Zhu King still didn't allow him to go with her. He went out alone to relax. Oscar was born in the year of the pig. He would not wake up, even if the sky fell down, if he buried his head in the bed. The teachers also went out to eat and relax. Tang Heo didn't know why he didn't come, but stayed at a place 100 miles away. This basically meant that there were only Mahanjan and Tang San left in the academy. So, with such a good opportunity, Mahanjan didn't cherish it. He actually gave up Tang San and chose to come to Soto City. Zhang Tianyu was puzzled. Maybe he thinks it's not good to do it in broad daylight, so he chooses to do it at night. The system said, pure bullshit. Zhang Tianyu cursed in his heart. Everyone is basically in the academy at night. As long as Tang San yells, Mahanjan will become the snow of Shrek and the dregs of the world. He actually wants to wait until night. After all, Mahanjan at this stage thinks with his lower body, so it's normal to do it. The system said. Zhang Tianyu stopped talking. Okay, anyway, just trigger the plot of being beaten by Boule. In the original plot, it happened to be today, and it was also in Soto City. Mahanjan was beaten by Boule, which is also in line with the original work. System. Mahanjan was forced to come to Soto City to find other ways, because he couldn't get Tang San. Is this in line with the original work? If the original work is really like this, Ah, it's also very interesting. Then he looked at the three girls walking together. Zhu King did not stay in the academy to practice this time, but came out with them. Zhang Tianyu was a little confused about what she was thinking. Was she not busy becoming stronger and then leaving that perverted family? Maybe she just wants to gain some favor with you and doesn't want Xiao Wu and Ning Rangrang to surpass her too much. The system said, no way. At this stage, I don't think I have gained much favor from her. Why would she take the initiative to gain my favor? Zhang Tianyu was a little unconvinced. The system stopped talking. This host is really in a fluctuating state sometimes. When he comes up, his emotional intelligence is very high, and he can grasp other people's psychology very accurately, and he can easily get the girl's mentality. But when his emotional intelligence is low, he is like a rookie who knows nothing. This time, the four people still had a lot of fun and enjoyed themselves, and returned to the academy in the evening. However, as soon as they arrived at the academy, they saw Dame Yubei, Tang San and Oscar supporting Ma Hanjun, who was beaten and swollen, and walking towards the academy gate indignantly. Zhang Tianyu and the other four were stunned and walked over quickly. What's going on? Tianyu, you're back just in time. Tang San said. Fatty was beaten up in the city. Dame Yubei gritted his teeth. Damn it, he dared to beat my brother. I must go and avenge him. Beat him by whom? Xiao Wu immediately became alert when she heard that there was a fight. It's the last time we entered the city, Mahanjan said. Do you remember? It's the wretched uncle in the alley who was shot in the butt by Xianyu's flying sleeve arrow. Hearing this, Xiao Wu and the others suddenly understood. Then why did he beat you? Zhang Tianyu asked quickly. I happened to meet him, and he recognized me at once. He said that it must be us who did it last time when his butt was stabbed, so he wanted to teach me a lesson. Of course I'm not afraid of him, but I didn't expect that he was a soul master. He beat me up in no time. I was no match for him at all. After beating me, he found a nail and stabbed my butt. Everyone's faces were immediately filled with anger. In the end, he also said that when he sees Xianyu and the others, he will not let you go. He also said that he will take all three girls. All what? Xiao Wu immediately asked with a frown. Without waiting for Ma Hanjun to answer, Dame Yubei said angrily, what else can it be? What good words can that kind of scum say? That kind of scum must be severely beaten. As soon as the voice fell, without waiting for others to speak, Zhang Tianyu directly activated the fourth soul skill, waved his hand, and threw out 7 illusory swords, and he stepped on the yellow springs, saying coldly, damn it, give him face. Get on the sword. Let's fly to Soto City, dig 3 feet deep to find him tonight, and beat him up. Damn, beat him up. Others stepped on the illusory swords, and 8 black lights shot up into the sky, flying straight to Soto City. On the way, Zhang Tianyu's face was full of anger, and he was laughing in his heart. Oh, I didn't expect it to be triggered in this way. It seems that it was destined to meet the wild Bula last time. Interesting, young lady. So, should we kill Bula tonight? Soon, 8 black lights descended over Soto City. Where did he beat you? Dame Yubei asked Mahanjan. Mahanjan pointed in a direction. Near there. Dame Yubei and Oscar didn't say anything. They had expected it. The direction Mahanjan pointed to was the famous brothel street in Soto City. That place is crowded with people. Let's walk there. Dame Yubei said. Everyone landed and walked away. As soon as they stepped onto the street, the 3 girls all showed expressions of disgust, because there were some prostitutes standing on both sides of the street in scantily clad and flashy clothes. Shameless. Xiao Wu whispered, you and that wretched uncle really have the same taste. Ning Rangrang said to Mahanjan. Zhu King gave Dame Yubei a cold look. Dame Yubei was about to say something, when suddenly a charming voice rang out beside him. Hey, isn't this young Master Day? Young Master Day, you haven't been here for a long time. We all miss you so much. As soon as the words fell, a group of prostitutes rushed up like flies smelling snow. Young Master Day is still so handsome. Young Master Day, come and play Dame Yubei. Chapter 87 beat the hell out of him. Shut up. Dame Yubei roared, subduing the prostitutes. All of them were frightened and silent. They dared not even breathe, let alone speak. Then, Dame Yubei looked at Zhu King in a panic. but found that Zhu Xiaogang did not show any impatience, disgust, or anger on her face. Although her expression was still cold, it was the same coldness as usual. Even her eyes were still calm. It was as if Zhu Xiaogang no longer cared about the things Dame Bei was doing outside. Dame Bei panicked for no reason. This didn't seem to be a good thing. "Oh, Mr. Day, what's wrong with you?" The madam of the brothel came to her senses, hurried over and stretched out her hand to help Dame Bei calm down. "Calm down, calm down." Then she turned around to look at the girls in the brothel and scolded, "How can you be so tactless? Can't you see that Mr. Day has something to do now? Don't gather here, go away." The girls in the brothel dispersed reluctantly, sighing in their hearts that they had bad luck today and that the gold soul coins they had obtained were going to be lost again. Dame Bei impatiently opened her hand. "Don't touch me. I tell you, I was not serious before, but I will turn over a new leaf later. I will not come to you again. I came here today just to find someone who has a grudge against us." The madam was stunned and then quickly said, "Don't, Mr. Day. We have a new batch of beautiful girls, the kind that can squeeze water out of them. We have kept several brand new ones for you." Zhao Wu and Ning Rangrang looked disgusted. "I can't stand it anymore. Let's go." Zhang Tianyu nodded. Dame Bei's face was stern, and he was about to scold the madam. Suddenly a woman exclaimed in a low voice, "Look, that handsome boy is so handsome." "Which one?" "Wow, it's really him. So handsome. More handsome than Mr. Day. Handsome guy, do you want to play? Handsome guy, come on." Zhao Wu and Ning Rangrang were so angry because the handsome guy these women were talking about was Zhang Tianyu. There was no other way. Zhang Tianyu's looks were one of the best in the entire continent, not to mention in Soto City. These prostitutes received all kinds of men every day, but they had never seen such a handsome man. So, they were all aroused at once. "Shameless. You dare to hit on Tianyu, you're looking for death." Zhao Wu and Ning Rangrang were like angry lioness. If they hadn't seen that these people were ordinary people, they would have almost summoned their martial spirits. "Who are you saying is shameless?" The madam rolled her eyes, pinched her waist, and pointed at Zhao Wu and Ning Rangrang. "Where did you come from? You dare to come to my territory?" Before she finished speaking, Rang Huangquan was unsheathed. The violent black death energy like a storm exploded on the spot. The next second, Huangquan had appeared on the madam's neck. Although it didn't touch her neck, the sharp sword energy mixed with the black death energy had cut a wound on her neck, and blood was flowing. The madam realized at this time that she had offended someone she shouldn't have offended, and she was so scared that her hair stood on end. She quickly looked at Dame Bei. "Mr. Day, save me. Please save me, even the gods can't save you." Zhang Tianyu glared at the madam, apologized to both of them. Immediately, right now, anyone who dared to scold Zhao Wu, Ning Rangrang, and Zhu Xiaogang in front of him would touch his reverse scale. These three are all his wives. The madam didn't react for a moment. Zhang Tianyu had already come in front of her, slapped her in the face viciously, and knocked her to the ground. "Apologize to them, or say goodbye to your head." Zhang Tianyu stepped on her back, looking down at her coldly. At this moment, Zhang Tianyu was filled with black air, and there were faint sounds of ghosts howling and whimpering in the wind around him. He really had a kind of death-like aura. The madam finally reacted, and said to Zhao Wu and Ning Rangrang tremblingly, "I'm sorry. I apologize. I shouldn't have scolded you. I'm sorry. I was wrong." Zhang Tianyu looked at Zhao Wu and Ning Rangrang. The two looked at each other. Zhao Wu said to the madam, "I'll forgive you this time, but I won't forgive you next time." Thank you for your kindness." Zhang Tianyu raised his foot. "Get out." The madam stood up and left quickly. "You get out too." Zhang Tianyu looked at the prostitutes. How could those prostitutes dare to stay any longer? They all ran away. Zhang Tianyu put away Huangquan, and his momentum returned to normal. The other Shrek people looked at Zhang Tianyu without blinking. Today, they have a more comprehensive understanding of Zhang Tianyu. Whoever dares to disrespect Zhao Wu, he will really be angry. "You are so kind, you let her go so easily." Zhang Tianyu walked to Zhao Wu and touched her hair. "If it were me, I would break one of her arms first." "You said you were apologizing. but there was no sincerity at all, and you didn't even kneel down and kowtow or anything. Xiaowu chuckled. Forget it, we are here to help the fat man get revenge today, so let's not make trouble. Damn, the third master is so handsome. Mahanjan didn't care about the pain on his face and flattered him. Don't talk nonsense, hurry up and find the person who beat you up, Zhang Tianyu said. Xiaowu looked at Zhang Tianyu with a sweet face. Ning Rang Grang and Zhu Zuking looked at Xiaowu with envy. Oh, when can I have such a boyfriend with such a strong boyfriend? It would be great if Zhang Tianyu could protect me and stand up for me like this. Zhu Zuking then glanced at Dame Yu Bei, and the comparison between Dame Yu Bei and Zhang Tianyu in her heart became clearer. Dame Yu Bei's attitude towards the madam seemed very resolute, but Zhu Zuking felt that it was just talk, and Zhang Tianyu's attitude towards the madam was really to chop her off without any mercy. Others might not be able to see it, but Zhu Zuking could clearly feel it. Zhang Tianyu's murderous intent towards the madam was real. At that time, Zhang Tianyu really wanted to kill the madam. Sure enough, Tianyu was the most upright. Dame Yu Bei turned around and found that Zhu Zuking still didn't look at him, and the expression on her face seemed to have not changed since just now. He immediately sighed in his heart. When and what method can I use to win back Zhu Zuking's heart? There are many brothels on the brothel street, and what happened here is just a small episode. There are fights on this street every day, and people around are no longer surprised. Mahanjan and the others waited quietly outside the brothel that Bula had entered. Not long after, Bula came out contentedly. It's him. Mahanjan's eyes were suddenly filled with anger. Damn it, beat him up. Dame Yu Bei, who was furious, rushed out first. Chapter 88. Why don't you run away? It was too late for others to stop him. Dame Yu Bei, who had been furious for a long time, rushed to Bula like a tiger rushing down the mountain. But he did not attack Bula. He was not completely overwhelmed by anger. With his strength, he was not enough to face Bula, the soul master. So he pretended to be a PO customer and walked towards the brothel where Bula came out. Bula glanced at him, then retracted his gaze. It seemed that he did not regard him as an attacker. At the moment of passing by Bula, Dame Yu Bei suddenly took action, turned over and locked Bula's neck with both hands, and directly locked the man with force. Bula was stunned. No wonder he felt that there was something wrong with this kid. It was indeed wrong. I've locked him up. Come on. Dame Yu Bei had a lot of combat experience. He knew that with his strength, he certainly couldn't lock Bula for too long, so he shouted directly next to Bula's ear. On the one hand, it could alert others and let them take action. On the other hand, Dame Yu Bei's tiger roar could directly shock Bula's ears. Even if he couldn't be knocked unconscious, at least he could delay the time for him to resist. Sure enough, Bula felt as if there was a thunder explosion in his ears, and his left ear and entire brain were buzzing. Most of the soul power that had been accumulated dissipated at this moment. Others quickly rushed over. Mahanjan took out the sack that had been prepared long ago and put it on Bula's head, then kicked Bula in the stomach. Tang San summoned the blue silver grass, which tightly entangled Bula and injected paralysis toxin into Bula's body. Bula screamed and fell to the ground. Everyone immediately rushed up and punched and kicked him. I told you to hit me. I'll beat you to death. Mahanjan cursed while beating him. I told you to hit my brother. Damn it. Dame Yu Bei kicked Bula again and again. Enemy. Damn. Enemy. Beat him. Zhang Tianyu also kicked him. Dare to bully our people. You're looking for death. Looking for death. Oscar was also trying hard. Only Tang San, who needed to control the blue silver grass, and the three girls stood aside and did not take action. After being hit a few times, Bula finally calmed down and shouted angrily, dare to hit me? You're looking for death. Cheyenne Lo double cover. Bang. With a slight sound, a huge pink double shield similar to glasses appeared, blocking the attacks of 4 people in an instant. Bula himself also broke free from the sack. Seeing this, Dame Yu Bei and Mahanjan directly used the White Tiger Fierce Light Wave and Phoenix Fire line, but they were all easily blocked by the Cheyenne Lo double shield. Although this shield looks like women's underwear and does not seem to be strong, in fact, its toughness is not inferior to those familiar defensive martial arts. Seeing that the attacks were all bounced away, Dame Yubei was also stunned. This martial arts spirit is a bit beyond his imagination. Zhu Zuking and Xiao Wu rushed up afterwards, but the Netherworld stab and waist bow were all blocked, and even bounced out. Awesome. Zhang Tianyu nodded his head. It was not surprising that he could block the White Tiger Fierce Light Wave and the Phoenix Fireline. These two soul skills themselves could not break the martial arts protection of the Xianluo double shield. But he didn't expect that the sharp Netherworld stab was also blocked. It's you? Seeing Zhang Tianyu and Xiao Wu, Bu sneered. I was just looking for you, but I didn't expect you to come to my door. Great. I haven't had enough fun tonight. After that, he glanced at Dame Yubei and others. You are just a bunch of level 20 or 30 scum. Bu sneered. Now get out of here immediately, leave these girls to me to play with, and I will let you go. You're dreaming. Dame Yubei roared, and the White Tiger martial spirit directly completed the possession, and 3 soul rings floated out of the body. Little soul master, what are you pretending for? Bu raised his hand, and the soul rings on his body lit up, and the Xianluo double shields burst out with a pink light, and directly put Dame Yubei into it like a bubble. No matter what attack Dame Yubei launched in the bubble, he could not break the bubble. Damn it. What kind of trick is this? Dame Yubei was shocked and angry. Tang San's third soul ring lit up, and a spider web exploded above Bule's head. Bule still had a look of disdain on his face. The Xianluo double cover burst out with pink light again, blocking the spider web. Don't work hard, you little trash. This is the difference in strength. Bule continued to taunt. Since you don't want to drink the wine, don't blame me for being rude. As soon as he finished speaking, he was about to attack everyone, but suddenly his expression changed, and his whole body was shocked. Because he suddenly found that there seemed to be a person on the opposite side with 4 soul rings. He wiped his eyes, and took a closer look. Yes, the most handsome man in the crowd on the other side also had 4 soul rings. How is this possible? These people on the opposite side are just 12 or 13 years old. How could there be a soul master? Who are you calling a little scum? Zhang Tianyu waved his hand, and the illusory sword passed through the air. Black light flashed, and the pink bubble that trapped Dame Yubei exploded on the spot, and Dame Yubei regained his freedom. Who are you calling a little trash? Zhang Tianyu waved his hand again, and the illusory sword rushed straight to Bule. Bule immediately reacted, and with a wave of his hands, the Xianluo double cover turned into a shield, blocking his body. You are actually a soul master? You are so young, and there is actually a soul master so young? Bule exclaimed. Oh, you found out. Zhang Tianyu smiled. Then I can't keep you. Bule was so scared that his whole body trembled. If these little soul masters wanted to kill him, it would be a joke. But if a soul master wanted to kill him, it would be possible to kill him. And it was a soul master who could easily break his soul skills. However, he was not scared. If he couldn't fight, couldn't he run? You are young, but you are so arrogant. Do you still want to kill me? As soon as the voice fell, there was a cracking sound. Under Bule's shocked eyes, his Xianluo double shield was pierced with a hole. His martial soul with extremely strong defense was pierced today. How could this be possible? Exclamation mark. His martial soul was destroyed, and he felt an indescribable suffocating pain in his body. I thought you were very powerful, but it turned out to be quite ordinary. Zhang Tianyu sneered, looking at Bule's painful appearance, and said, it's painful, right? Don't worry, it won't hurt soon. As soon as the voice fell, Huangquan passed by Bule like a black lightning. Bule's whole body was shaking violently, and then he suddenly raised his hand to cover his neck. A lot of blood flowed out from his fingers, and soon stained the clothes on his chest red. You. Bule pointed at Zhang Tianyu, his face full of disbelief, and then fell down powerlessly. The others were also shocked at this moment. Murder. Zhang Tianyu actually killed someone. And looking at the expression on his face, there was no fluctuation at all. Zhang Tianyu raised his hand and put Bule's body into the inventory. Only a pool of blood was left on the ground. But the blood didn't matter. As long as there was no body, who would care what the blood was? Maybe someone had hematoids. After taking Bule's body away, Zhang Tianyu looked at everyone. Everyone was still looking at him in shock. He said calmly, I killed someone. Everyone nodded in unison. He said, "Why don't you run?" Everyone woke up, as if from a dream, and quickly ran away with him. Chapter 89. Tang San actually has corpse dissolving water? They didn't stop until they were far away from Soto City and almost at the academy. "Oh my god, I still can't react," Oscar said with some lingering fear. Zhang Tianyu shrugged. "Don't think I'm cruel. I've been exposed. He may not remember you, but he will definitely remember me. Once I go to fight, he will know my personal information. At that time, he will hide in the dark and wait for an opportunity. What should I do?" Everyone was stunned. This seemed to be correct. Tang San was the first to stand up to support Zhang Tianyu. The world is dangerous and people's hearts are unpredictable. There is absolutely no problem with Tianyu doing this. If you offend someone, you must cut the grass and root it out, as long as you have the chance. Otherwise there will be endless troubles. That's right. Xiao Wu was the second to support Zhang Tianyu. "It's better to kill him, so that you don't have to worry about being targeted by such gangsters in the dark in the future." Ning Rangrang expressed her opinion third. "Tianyu did a good job, and he did the right thing." Mahanjan also said, "Thank you, third master, for avenging me. Anyway, I've done both good and bad things. People can't be resurrected after death." Zhang Tianyu spread his hands. "Hey, to be honest, don't think I seem calm, but my heart is beating wildly now. This is also the first time I kill someone. I'm afraid I'll have a nightmare tonight." Everyone laughed. "Then I'll sleep with you?" Xiao Wu's words immediately made Ning Rangrang's eyes widen. Xiao Wu also realized that this was not appropriate, and her face turned red. "Oh, I was just kidding." Zhang Tianyu said, "You go back to the academy first. I'll find a place to deal with the body. I'll go with you." Tang San said. Zhang Tianyu thought about it and nodded. "Okay. You have to come back soon." Oscar sighed, and he would go back to shave later. The two stepped on the flying swords and flew one after the other towards the more uninhabited wasteland in the distance. Although Soto City is prosperous, there are only a few scattered towns and villages outside the city. Most of the other places are remote wastelands and barren mountains with no one. The two flew to the halfway point of a barren mountain. Zhang Tianyu released the corpse of Boule from the inventory, took out a person to storage soul guide from him, and then controlled Huan Quan to dig a big pit on the ground. After putting Boule's body into the pit, Tang San said, "Wait a moment." After that, he took out a small porcelain bottle from his arms and poured the liquid inside on Boule's body. With the sound of sizzling, a white smoke mixed with an unpleasant smell spread out. A few minutes later, Boule's body had become a pool of blood. In this way, he has completely disappeared. Tang San said, "Great brother, I didn't expect you to have this ability." Zhang Tianyu praised. Tang San looked at Zhang Tianyu with a bright look in his eyes. "Tianyu, you have always been helping me and supporting me, but I have never been able to help you. I'm very happy to help you today. We are brothers, and we will help each other in the future." Zhang Tianyu patted Tang San's shoulder and smiled. Tang San was somewhat moved. His eyes flickered, as if he had something to say, but Zhang Tianyu was keenly aware that his words might be annoying, so he didn't give him a chance to speak. "It's getting late. Let's go back, lest we go back late and make the dean and others suspicious." Tang San opened his mouth, as if he wanted to say something, but in the end he swallowed the words on his lips and nodded. "Okay." Then he sighed in his heart. "Why am I a man? Why am I not a woman?" Shrek Academy, the dean's office. Flanders looked sad and said helplessly, "Xiaogang, although I don't want to disturb you from teaching our little monsters, I have to regretfully tell you that the little money of the academy has been spent by you." Yu Xiaogang raised his head. "Hey, didn't I tell you to bring more before?" Flanders rolled his eyes. "Why don't you bring more yourself?" Yu Xiaogang was annoyed. "Hey, don't do this every time, okay?" The two fell into silence. Flanders sighed. "Now we have no money. What should we do?" Yu Xiaogang said helplessly. "Without money, we can only go home." Flanders resisted. "Please, I don't want to go home. I'm a soul saint. If I go home, because I have no money, others will laugh at me to death." As a powerful soul saint, he was controlled by money because of his own pride. How sad it is. Originally, according to normal expenses, the tuition fees paid by the students were enough to support their study for a school year, and there would even be some surplus. But Yu Xiaogang's teaching method was extremely alternative. Not only did the food expenses increase significantly, but the medicines he mixed into the food and the bath water for the students every day were even more expensive. Only 3 months have passed, and Shrek Academy has no surplus of the tuition fees collected this year. Yu Xiaogang nodded, still with his unchanging stiff expression, and said lightly, "I understand." Flanders smiled bitterly and said, "You know, we have to come up with a solution. After these 7 days of rest, I will take them to the second stage of training. You don't have to worry about it, I will solve the cost issue." Flanders sighed and said, "If these children were not so outstanding, I really don't want to maintain it. It is still the days when we traveled around the continent together that are the most exciting." The master showed a brief absence of consciousness. "Maybe one day we will repeat the happiness we had back then." Flanders couldn't help asking, "Xiaogang, how are you going to teach these children in the next stage? Should we take it easy? They have suffered a lot in the past 3 months. After all, they are only in their teens. As the saying goes, too much rigidity is easy to break, so don't overdo it." Yu Xiaogang looked at him. "Since you teach these children to me, you can only choose to trust me completely. I know my limits." His method is to let all the Shrek people go to the great fighting arena, to fight and make money, and live in a hotel near the fighting arena, with all food and lodging at their own expense. So this is outrageous. Going out to fight with souls, and taking care of your own food and lodging. Do you still need to enter the academy? Can't any soul master go to the fighting soul field to fight with souls? And can't you take care of your own food and lodging? But it's good this way. Finally, we can all go to Soto City. The next step will be much simpler. When we get to Soto City, Yu Xiaogang will see and come into contact with many people every day. At that time, it's hard to say what kind of accidents he will encounter, or what kind of bizarre events he will encounter. After all, the Soul Master world is full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers, and there will be all kinds of strange people. The next morning, after hearing about Yu Xiaogang's next plan, instead of expressing dissatisfaction, everyone was very happy. In their opinion, fighting with souls is much more comfortable than accepting Yu Xiaogang's devilish training here. Zhang Tianyu was also very happy. He could finally make Angel for a work. Chapter 90 begins. Yu Xiaogang. After finishing the so-called second stage of teaching content, Yu Xiaogang started his traditional art, put masks on everyone, and told everyone not to reveal their identities and names, and gave everyone a code name. Damubei is called the evil-eyed white tiger, Oscar is called the sausage specialty, and Zhang Tianyu is called Zhang Tianyu interrupted him at the right time. "Master, I didn't use my real name. When I participated in the competition before, I used the pseudonym, Zeman Chugsu." Yu Xiaogang thought about it and nodded. "Okay, then you can continue to use this pseudonym." After giving everyone the pseudonyms, everyone set off on the road to the Soto City Fighting Spirit Arena. Zhang Tianyu took a last look at the old Shrek Academy. On the surface, there was no expression, but there was a sigh in his heart. Many times in life, we are in a hurry, and we don't even have time to say goodbye. Except for Zhang Tianyu, none of them could have imagined that this trip to Soto City seemed to be just a teaching trip, but in fact, it was a farewell to the old Shrek Academy. In Soto City, they would meet the royal fighting team and eventually join the Blue Tyrant Academy. He had lived 2 lives, from the beginning of Notting Academy to the old Shrek Academy, to the Xiandao Academy, the Blue Tyrant Academy, and finally the Wuhan City. He had been to many places, but the one he liked the most was the old Shrek Academy. He didn't like it here, because of these people, but he liked this kind of place with a strong rural atmosphere. The days in the old Shrek always reminded him of the village, where he was born, and grew up on Earth. Speaking of which, he hadn't been back to Earth for many years. Although there was no one on Earth that he cared about, he still missed it a little after not going back for so many years. Well, let's go back. After becoming a god, near the Soto City Douluo Arena, everyone booked a room in a nearby hotel. Unlike the previous life, in this life, because of Oscar's hair growth problem, Zhang Tianyu and Oscar lived in the same room. The other 3 boys lived in another 3-person room. and the three girls lived together. Everyone also finalized the team formation. Although Zhang Tianyu was already a soul master, he told everyone that, because he had a mutant martial spirit, he could hide his level. Therefore, in the registration information of the Great Fighting Soul Arena, he was still a soul master, and Xiao Wu also upgraded to a soul master, so he was still teamed with Xiao Wu, and there was no change. The rest of the people, Damu Bei and Oscar, two soul masters, formed a team. Mahanjan and Tang San formed a team. Ningran Grang and Zhu Zuking formed a team. Although Mahanjan was still a soul master and Tang San was already a soul master, but considering Tang San's strong control ability of blue silver grass, it was relatively appropriate for these two to form a team. Next, let's invite Feng Wujiushan's opponent, the cat and mouse combination, which has won 4 consecutive victories in the 2-on-2 fighting spirit competition. With their strong strength, they have achieved unprecedented success in the Soul Master level competition. If they can defeat today's opponent, the 3-5 combination, then they will complete 5 consecutive victories. Perhaps the next time they appear in the Soto Great Fighting Spirit Arena, they will enter the Central Fighting Spirit area, which is a great honor for fighting spirits. With the hosts shaking hands and energetic speech, 2 figures, one tall and one short, walked onto the stage. Zhang Tianyu didn't expect to run into the cat and mouse combination, right? Logically, shouldn't this cat and mouse combination be matched with Tang San's side? Because according to the setting, Tang San is the original protagonist of this book, and the plot should be triggered from Tang San's side, so how could it be assigned to Xiao Wu's side? Forget it, it doesn't matter, just fight. The tall cat girl and the short fat mouse stood on the stage, looking at Zhang Tianyu and Xiao Wu wearing masks on the opposite side. The cat girl snorted with disdain, hidden head and exposed tail, pretending to be mysterious. If you want to say this person's mouth, he is a mean person. If you want to hit him, you can hit him. Why do you have to say a few trash words to show your status? In this case, I, Zhang, don't have any sympathy for women. Anyway, you don't look that good. With a shout of the fighting begins, both sides immediately summoned their martial spirits. Before the cat girl could rush towards Zhang Tianyu and the others, a black light flashed, and a stream of blood spurted out of her neck. Her whole body froze in place, as if she was struck by lightning. She raised her trembling hand, and touched the wound on her neck. Only then did she breathe a sigh of relief. Then she looked at Zhang Tianyu deeply and saluted. "Thank you for not killing me. An expert can tell the outcome from just one move." Just from this opening move, the cat girl knew that the opponent was definitely not someone they could deal with. Zhang Tianyu made a gesture of invitation, and the cat girl said directly, "We surrender." Although Fat Shushu was a little unwilling, he still knew his own limits. After the cat girl said she surrendered, he released his martial spirit and left the ring with the cat girl. The host was stunned for a few seconds before acting. The winner of today's game is the Feng Wujiu Shan group. I didn't expect the outcome to be decided so quickly. The audience was also very upset. Damn. It's over? What's going on? Why is it over all of a sudden? Is it a fake match? Is it a shady operation? RNM, give me back the money. Zhang Tianyu didn't bother to pay attention to the clamor of these audiences, and turned around, and left with Xiao Wu. Others also finished the game one after another. Today was a good start, and everyone won without failure. Looking at everyone's performance, Yu Xiaogang was very pleased. In addition to 1-on-1 and 2-on-2, he had also considered the team battles. However, when he was thinking about these things, he suddenly felt something wrong with his body. Inexplicably, he felt a little hot, especially in the chest and torso. Not only was it hot, but the muscles and skin were also inexplicably tight. What's going on? Yu Xiaogang was puzzled. Is it because I'm too tired these days, so I feel a little unwell? This tight and hot discomfort did not last long and soon returned to normal. Therefore, Yu Xiaogang did not think much about it. After the game was over, he escorted them back to the hotel with Xiao Wuji and Flanders. Finally, the three of them returned to Flanders' shop together. From now on, they will live in Flanders' shop. After returning to the hotel room, Zhang Tianyu watched Yu Xiaogang and the other two leave from the hotel window. At this time, Yu Xiaogang's back and shoulders moved a few times. Obviously, the uncomfortable feeling of muscle tension and heat appeared again. Zhang Tianyu had no expression on his face, but he was laughing wildly in his heart. Yu Xiaogang. I'll say it one last time. The props are starting to work. Chapter 91 The most powerful item, Invincible. Chapter 91 The strongest tool, Invincible. After waking up in the morning, Yu Xiaogang felt a little uncomfortable. The muscles in his chest and back became tighter and tighter than last night, and accompanied by a fever-like fever. But he still didn't think much about it. He thought that it might be because he was too tired these days. After all, when training others, he had to make some plans himself, so following the plan would inevitably make him tired. He walked out of the bedroom and greeted Flanders and Zhao Wuji. The two also greeted him, but then, their expressions suddenly changed. Yu Xiaogang didn't notice this and turned to go to the bathroom to wash up. Zhao Wuji and Flanders looked at each other. Zhao Wuji asked, "Why do I feel that the master is a little bit off today?" Flanders frowned. "Well, I feel a little bit too. Not sure. Let's see." Zhao Wuji. Sometimes Flanders is really careless. Sometimes I really feel that Flanders is just like a big fool. Either his brain is not normal or his eyes are defective. What is uncertain about this? Forget it. I'm too lazy to say more. Anyway, Yu Xiaogang is Flanders' good friend, not his good friend. Flanders is not anxious, so why should he be anxious? Another day passed. Yu Xiaogang still felt that the muscles of his entire upper body, torso, especially the front chest and back were tight and hot, but he still didn't take it seriously, because for 2 consecutive days, everyone in Shrek won a great victory. The joy brought by the victory made him not pay attention to these minor physical problems at all. Moreover, these minor problems only occurred occasionally for a few minutes, and would soon return to normal. He didn't even remember them in his mind. Just like that, a week of peace passed. In this week, except for Tang San, Mahanjan and Ning Rangrong, Zhu Zuking, who lost 1 round each in a 2-on-2 match, there were no other defeats. The money they earned was also very considerable, so the Shrek people decided to have a meal together on the weekend to celebrate their achievements. Originally, they planned to invite all the teachers of Shrek to join them, but Flanders and others all refused, because Shrek has always had a tradition that when teachers and students go out to work, teachers will not pay any fees to students, nor will they accept any benefits from students. After eating and drinking, everyone came to the gate of the Great Fighting Spirit Arena at the agreed time in the evening. From a distance, they saw the Shrek men's group, the Zhao Yulan trio coming over. "The teachers are here." Damu stood up straight and smiled. "We must continue to work hard tonight." "That's right. Keep working hard, become bigger and stronger, and create more glory." As he spoke, Zhao Yulan and the other 2 had already walked in front of him. However, when they saw these 3 people, everyone present was stunned. That's not right. Why do they feel that Yu Xiaogang is a little bit off? Everyone looked at Yu Xiaogang carefully, and that's right. The more they looked at him, the more they felt something was wrong. It seemed that his figure had undergone some inexplicable strange changes. "Teacher, have you been working out recently?" Tang San asked. Zhao Yulan and the other 2 were stunned, and Yu Xiaogang said, "What? Working out? No, I don't have the time to do that kind of thing. And as a spirit master, his body is already very strong, so why would he work out?" Hearing Yu Xiaogang's denial, everyone was confused. Not working out? Well, it might be because it was late and the light was dim, so there were some visual errors. Then they followed the process, registered, decided the order, and played. However, the atmosphere tonight was obviously different from usual. Everyone was more depressed and spoke less. The main reason was Yu Xiaogang's change. In the interval between the games, everyone was whispering, "Asan, what's going on with the master?" Damu asked. Tang San was a little worried. "I don't know either." "You heard it too?" "I asked the teacher just now, but the teacher said there was none." "Should we go ask the dean?" Oscar was also a little worried. After absorbing the spirit ring in the Stardao Great Forest, some problems occurred in his and Tang San's bodies. His hair grew wildly, while Tang San was completely the opposite. He didn't grow any hair on his body, and he still had a big bald head. They knew the pain after such physical problems, so now they were a little worried that other people would have problems. And today, Yu Xiaogang's abnormal body made their worries even more intense. Hearing Oscar's question, Tang San was silent for a while and said, "Well, let's ask the dean later. I'll go ask." Finding a chance, Tang San came to Flanders and asked his own question. Flanders frowned and thought for a while and said, "This, I don't know either." Tang San, you three have been living together these days. If you don't know, who knows? Flanders continued, "I was planning to talk to you about this tonight, and since you asked me about it, we'll talk about it in detail after all the games are over." Tang San nodded. Soon, all the games were over. Currently, 7 people have not signed up for the 7-person team battle, so they don't need to participate in the final team battle, so they can leave early. After leaving the big fighting spirit arena, they came to a remote street outside. Flanders and Zhao Wuji, who were walking in the front, stopped. As soon as they stopped, Tang San immediately understood and stopped as well. Then, all of them looked at Yu Xiaogang in unison. "What's wrong?" Yu Xiaogang asked with a dull expression. "Xiaogang, don't you feel that there is something wrong with your body?" Flanders asked. "No." Yu Xiaogang frowned slightly. "What's wrong? Teacher, are you really not secretly working out?" Tang San asked. Yu Xiaogang frowned even more. "Didn't you ask this question just now? Why do you ask it again? Are you too boring, or do you think I'm boring?" "But master," Damu Bei said, "if you don't exercise, then why are your pectoralis major muscles so exaggerated?" Yu Xiaogang? He didn't react for a long time and asked with a confused and puzzled look, "What did you say?" Damu Bei stopped talking, but at this time, everyone's expression became wonderful. Flanders and Zhao Wuji's expressions were a little cold. Damu Bei and others' expressions were a little painful. Zhao Wu and Ning Rangrang's expressions were a little envious. Zhu Zuking had a blank expression. "Say it again. What's the matter?" Yu Xiaogang asked Damu Bei. He said it 10 times and it's the same. Flanders said, "Why are your pectoralis major muscles so exaggerated?" Zhang Tianyu had the same expression on his face as Damu Bei and others, but he was already very happy in his heart. Why else? Of course it was because of Invincible. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 92. See if he is developing normally. Invincible for a prop that can change shape. After using it on the target's X parts will become larger. The degree and speed of the enlargement are controlled by the host. It is not limited to gender and can be used by both men and women. Note, the effect of this prop is irreversible. It can enlarge, but not shrink. If you want to shrink, you can use a needle, thorn or other sharp object to pierce the skin and release gas to shrink. It comes with a consciousness confusion effect, and the target will not notice the change in body size. Yes, it works on men as well. This is the Invincible that shocked the world and made ghosts weep. It also has another earth-shattering name, Long X Invincible Hand. This prop only appeared in the prop mall after rebirth in this life. It didn't exist in the previous life. Otherwise, Zhang Tianyu would have used it on Zhao Wu and Ning Rangrang long ago. Yes, he doesn't need the so-called diverse aesthetics. He just likes big. As long as it is big enough, even if it doesn't look very good, it is also a top-grade item in his eyes. Yu Xiaogang looked down at his normal body, his expression full of doubts. "My pectoralis major is very normal, is it exaggerated? I say again, I haven't been working out recently. There are so many things I need to do, how can I have time to work out?" And Flanders, Zhao Wuji, the 3 of us have been together basically these days. You should know best whether I have worked out or not. Flanders and Zhao Wuji looked at each other. "We know, but we are also human beings. We also need to rest and sleep. God knows what you are doing when we are resting and sleeping." Oscar asked at this time, "Master, have you been to the Stardao Great Forest or other places these days, or upgraded and obtained spirit rings?" Zhang Tianyu almost laughed out loud. Oscar is really a clever little ghost, and he is really a little expert at talking about things that are not related to the topic. Yu Xiaogang has been stuck at level 29 for decades and has not moved. He is upgrading and getting spirit rings. Let's put it this way, if Yu Xiaogang could upgrade and obtain a new spirit ring at the cost of his pectoralis major becoming bigger, then he would definitely be willing to do so. Sure enough, after listening to Oscar's question, a hint of dissatisfaction flashed across Yu Xiaogang's face. No, I have been stuck at level 29 for many years. Of course he knew Oscar was not deliberately humiliating him, but being exposed in public by a child, and a genius child who had just reached level 30 and obtained the third spirit ring, really made him lose face. Tang San asked, have you ever been to the Stardao Great Forest, or some other places? Yu Xiaogang thought about it seriously and said, probably not. Anyway, I haven't been to the Stardao Great Forest for a long time. Why are you asking these questions? Tang San's face was painful. After Zhao and I hunted soul beasts in the Stardao Great Forest, some problems appeared in our bodies. Zhao hair growth rate became very scary, but I never grew hair again. And now your pectoralis major muscles seem to have some problems with your body, so we are guessing whether you have these problems because you have been to these places or done similar things to us. Yu Xiaogang couldn't stand it anymore. He unbuttoned his shirt. You keep saying that there is something wrong with my body, but I don't think there is anything wrong with my body. What do you think is wrong with this? As soon as the shirt was unbuttoned, instantly Duang. The exaggerated ex-masculine muscles appeared in front of everyone. Everyone present immediately covered their eyes in pain. Seeing such a picture of such an ugly man, it's so eye-catching. My eyes. No. I have to wash my eyes with 100% ultra pure water. Put it on quickly. Flanders roared, and Yu Xiaogang was stunned by this roar. What's wrong? Just put it on. Is it necessary to roar so loudly? Put it on. Flanders' roar shook the sky. Yu Xiaogang stopped talking nonsense and slowly put on his clothes. As he put on his clothes, he said, hey, can you be nicer in attitude? Why are you yelling so loudly? Zhao Wuji also quickly pulled Flanders aside. Hey, Dean, calm down. Don't be so irritable. Calm down. Seeing that Yu Xiaogang finally put on his clothes, Flanders' anger was finally suppressed a little. Yu Xiaogang, you have changed now. I don't recognize you anymore. Yu Xiaogang was confused. What are you talking about? What am I talking about? Flanders said angrily, don't you know what I'm talking about? Don't you know what you are doing? Didn't I just lift up my clothes a little? Yu Xiaogang said, I'm a grown man. What's wrong? There's nothing to be afraid of. Oh, it was my negligence that I didn't consider the feelings of the three girls. Then you didn't just not consider the feelings of the three of them, you didn't consider the feelings of anyone. Flanders said angrily, look at their reactions. Is this a reaction of it doesn't matter? It doesn't matter? Yu Xiaogang only noticed the reaction of Zhang Tianyu and others at this time. Everyone covered their eyes, as if their eyes were burned by the spiciness. Hey, what's wrong with you? Yu Xiaogang asked curiously, why are you all like this? Teacher. Tang San smiled helplessly and shook his head. You really don't notice that there is something wrong with your body? Yes, my body is very good, very normal, there is no problem. Yu Xiaogang replied. Everyone was helpless, almost catching up with Zhu Xiaogang. You call this a normal body? This is called no problem? And you are a man. You are a man, almost like Zhu Xiaogang. Do you really think it is normal? Flanders exhaled impatiently through his nose. I think not only your body is not normal, but your mind is not normal either. Flanders, what's wrong with you today? Yu Xiaogang frowned. I think you are the one who is abnormal today. No, it's not just you who is abnormal. I think you are all a little abnormal. Yu Xiaogang said, I'm obviously normal, but you say I'm not normal. What do you want to do? Tang San, check him. Flanders said to Tang San. Okay, Dean, I will check if the teacher is poisoned. Tang San said, what do you mean by poisoned? Flanders said, I want you to check him to see if he is developing normally. P.S. A new book friend group has been created. Group number 891,685,657. Friends who are interested can join. I will talk about it in the introduction later. Some future updates and trends will be announced in the group. Welcome to join. Chapter 93. Is this person a man or a woman? Soon, Tang San gave Yu Xiaogang a full body check. The result was, Yu Xiaogang was fine. Whether it was his pulse, complexion or anything else, Yu Xiaogang looked completely normal now, nothing was wrong, and he was not poisoned. So the question was, why did Yu Xiaogang's chest suddenly become so big? It even looked bigger than Xiaokang's. This is totally unreasonable. But if you think about it carefully, it seems that master didn't just get bigger today, Xiao Wuji said at this time. This sentence instantly evoked everyone's memories. Yes, it seems that they have always felt that Yu Xiaogang is not quite right these days, but they couldn't tell what was wrong. Today, they can finally confirm that the pectoralis major has become bigger. A few days ago, this part of Yu Xiaogang had already begun to grow larger, but it was not so obvious yet, it just looked a little awkward. In addition, Yu Xiaogang usually wore loose clothes, so it would not attract too much attention. Now, it is very obvious, even bigger than Xiaogang, so of course it is obvious, even if Yu Xiaogang's clothes are very loose, it can no longer be concealed. What kind of disease is this? Xiao Wuji asked again. Flanders was a little confused. How would I know? Don't ask me. How would I know if this is a disease? Yu Xiaogang was the most confused. What are you talking about? Yu Xiaogang was completely confused at this time. I obviously don't have any problems. From his point of view, he was really normal, and there was no problem with his body. This sentence shifted everyone's attention to him, and then everyone began to look at each other with a solemn expression. It was such an obvious problem. Why didn't Yu Xiaogang notice it, but instead felt that he was normal? No. This situation is a bit wrong. Either there is something wrong with Yu Xiaogang's eyes, or there is something wrong with his brain, or he is blatantly pretending to be confused. Obviously, there is nothing wrong with Yu Xiaogang's eyes. Judging from his performance, there is nothing wrong with his brain either. There is only one possibility. But why does he pretend to be confused? Is he embarrassed? Or is he just afraid to see a doctor? There is no reason for this. We are all family members, especially Flanders. He and Yu Xiaogang are close friends. There is no reason to feel embarrassed. Besides, Yu Xiaogang has been a waste for so many years. His psychological endurance must be far beyond that of others. Now that this situation has occurred, it is absolutely impossible for him to avoid seeing a doctor. He will definitely actively look for a solution. After all, Oscar and Tang San are actively looking for a solution. Flanders sighed and said, Xiaogang, no one will laugh at you. You don't have to pretend to be confused like this. This is equivalent to directly piercing the window paper. I thought Yu Xiaogang would finally admit it. As a result, Yu Xiaogang was even more confused. I pretended to be confused. What am I pretending to be confused about? Besides, what are you laughing at me for? Oh, are you talking about my martial soul becoming useless? It doesn't matter, you can laugh if you want. Anyway, I'm used to it. Everyone. This is completely talking at cross purposes. We will never laugh at you for that kind of thing. It's not your fault. The martial soul mutation is a knife hanging over everyone's head. Flanders said, I'm talking about the abnormal development of your body. Why do you pretend to be confused? Yu Xiaogang was speechless. I say it again, my Shenshin is normal. There is no abnormal development. Everyone was completely speechless. You can never wake up a person who pretends to sleep unless you turn off the air conditioner for him. But there is no empty bar here in Douluo continent. Flanders thought about it. Since Yu Xiaogang refused to admit it, let him be. There was no need to make the relationship awkward for such a small matter. There was no need to force him to admit it. After all, everyone had unspeakable pain. But as a grown man, walking on the road with two big melons on his head would attract a lot of attention, especially since Yu Xiaogang was still Shrek's teacher and leader. So it was better not to let him appear in a busy place like the Great Fighting Spirit Arena, so as not to cause trouble for Shrek. So Flanders said, then, Xiaogang, you go back to my store first. Yu Xiaogang was stunned. Why? Why do you say that? Forget it. If you don't want to admit it, I won't say much. It's just that you are not suitable to appear in public like this now. You should go back to the store first. Yu Xiaogang frowned. What did Flanders mean? Was he going to exclude him? He was the leader of Shrek now. Why am I not fit to appear in public now? Yu Xiaogang asked, do you think my level is too low, so I'm embarrassing Shrek? You. Flanders rolled his eyes. Yu Xiaogang, are you saying this with a clear conscience? Just pat your conscience and say, we have known each other for so many years, when have I ever disliked you? Then why did you say that to me? Yu Xiaogang asked. Flanders, I'm really impressed. Why can't Yu Xiaogang make sense? I've told you the reason, but you're pretending to be confused and refusing to admit it. What can we do? Anyway, go back to the store first. I'll try to solve your problem in the next few days, and then you can come back to be the leader. Flanders was too lazy to talk nonsense with him, and finally said it in a decisive manner. Yu Xiaogang was silent for a few seconds, looked at the expressions of others, and finally said no more, turned around and walked towards the store. His expression was a little lonely and disappointed. In his eyes, everything was normal for him, so in his opinion, he could not find any other reason, except that Flanders disliked him for his low level. At this moment, he really felt a sense of defeat. He thought that Flanders really would not dislike him, but he did not expect that in the end, he was still disliked. How miserable. How uncomfortable. The miserable Yu Xiaogang looked at the brightly lit Big Fighting Spirit arena in the distance, and even had the idea of leaving at one point, but then he thought of Tang San again. No, I can't leave. Tang San is my student. If I leave, it would be irresponsible to my students. But he was still in a bad mood, so he pushed the door and walked into a tavern. This tavern was full of people and smoke. Many people drank and played with money here, and many people would tease the waitresses when they were delivering beer. After Yu Xiaogang walked into the tavern, the atmosphere in the tavern instantly became quiet, and everyone looked at Yu Xiaogang with a very strange look. Yu Xiaogang was too lazy to pay attention to them. He came here to drink to relieve his mood. So he walked straight to the bar and paid 9 coins. Give me a barrel of beer. What the hell? A man's vulgar voice sounded next to him. Is this a man or a woman? Chapter 94 Shocked. Yu Xiaogang was it? Yu Xiaogang frowned and looked in the direction of the sound. He saw a man in short clothes, showing muscles, with a beard and a face full of flesh looking at him stupidly. He ignored the man, took the beer brought by the bartender, and walked to the table in the corner to drink alone. I'm curious too. Look at the face. He's a man, but look at the body. This is fucking. This is too hot, right? The girls in this pub are not this big. So this, is it a man or a woman? Many people in the pub, especially the men, became very interested in Yu Xiaogang. This novel scene made them completely confused. They have never seen anything like this before. As time went by, the atmosphere in the tavern gradually returned to normal, but many people would still look at Yu Xiaogang from time to time. Many of these people would have evil eyes when looking at Yu Xiaogang. Yu Xiaogang drank beer one cup after another. His tolerance was very strong, but strong tolerance was equivalent to bearing more things. And no matter how strong the tolerance was, there was a limit. After reaching this limit, the pain would be greater than that of people with poor tolerance. Yu Xiaogang had long been accustomed to the ridicule and disgust of others, but he could not accept Flanders' disgust for him. So the more he thought about it, the more uncomfortable he felt, and the more he drank. Finally, after drinking 7 or 8 barrels of beer, he finally couldn't handle the alcohol and fell drunk on the table. It's not that he was careless, but he felt that he was a big man and would not encounter the kind of hooligans who picked up corpses, so he didn't care about getting drunk. And those who had been staring at him, after seeing that he was finally drunk, winked at each other and quietly approached. After confirming that Yu Xiaogang was indeed drunk and unconscious, these people lifted Yu Xiaogang and left the tavern. Brother, do you think this person is a man or a woman? From here, it looks like a woman. But her face is a little ugly, and she has a big beard, so she looks like a man. Why does this person look so strange? Stop talking nonsense. The man called the eldest brother gave orders, hurry up and take him back, and then take a closer look. If Zhang Tianyu was here, he would immediately recognize that the eldest brother in charge was a fat bear. Then today's Yu Xiaogang, with a full beard and white socks. Well, it can be said to be a professional match. So, if nothing unexpected happens, Yu Xiaogang will be beaten tonight. Fortunately, nothing unexpected happened, so, the next morning, Yu Xiaogang, who had a splitting headache, opened his eyes and saw a few beams of sunlight shining in from the dilapidated roof at first glance. Yu Xiaogang was drowsy and in pain, and his head was a little confused. Where am I? He propped himself up and stood up, but was suddenly shocked to find that he was not wearing any clothes. To be precise, he was not wearing any pants. What's going on? Why am I not in Flanders' shop? And why am I so disheveled? At this time, he remembered that he seemed to have drunk too much in the pub last night, and finally got drunk and passed out. So, could it be that he drank too much and came here in a daze and slept here all night? As for the pants, it might be that he forgot to put them on when he went to the toilet in the middle of the night, so he just lay here and slept. But after this thought, he felt like he had hemorrhoids. It hurts. It hurts a lot. Damn it. When did I get hemorrhoids? What happened last night? After resting for a long time, he finally got up slowly, put on his clothes, and walked out of the door with a somewhat strange walking posture. Looking back, he found that this was an abandoned, uninhabited yard. Walking out of the gate, this was a secluded alley. I didn't expect that there was such an uninhabited place in the prosperous Soto city. But how did I get here last night? Why did I come to such a place? He tried hard to think, but he got a headache when he thought about it. After trying a few times, he simply stopped thinking about it. It was too uncomfortable. After a short while in the sun, he finally felt his soul return to his body. The numbness in various parts of his body disappeared, and all kinds of senses returned to normal. Then he frowned, and a trace of disgust appeared on his face. What's this taste in my mouth? Yu Xiaogang frowned, a little regretful. It seems that I shouldn't drink so much alcohol. I don't remember anything last night, and I woke up with a headache and a bad breath. He also had hemorrhoids. What's the matter with hemorrhoids caused by drinking? He shook his head vigorously, walked out of the alley, and returned to Flanders' shop according to the route he remembered. Seeing Yu Xiaogang coming back, the anxious Flanders and Zhao Wuji finally breathed a sigh of relief. Where have you been? Didn't I ask you to go back to the store? Why haven't you been seen all night? Flanders frowned and asked. I drank some wine last night, and then I slept in an empty house. Yu Xiaogang looked at Flanders' anxious and concerned look, and his dissatisfaction disappeared by a large margin. You. Flanders shook his head and sighed. I don't mind you drinking. At least find a place closer to the store, and when we complete the fighting spirit here, we can also go to you to drink together. When he heard complete the fighting spirit, Yu Xiaogang's mood was a little bad again, and he said, okay, I'll remember it next time. I have a headache now, so I'll go back to rest. Looking at Yu Xiaogang's dusty body, Flanders frowned and asked, where did you sleep last night? Which empty house? Yu Xiaogang ignored him. Then Flanders and Zhao Wuji noticed Yu Xiaogang's awkward walking posture. They both frowned and looked at each other. Zhao Wuji asked in a low voice, I say, Master, it seems that it is not just a simple case of drinking some wine and finding an empty house to sleep. Okay, stop talking. Flanders was a little unhappy. Let's do this for now. You keep an eye on him here. I'll go find someone to see if I can solve his problem. This can be solved. Zhao Wuji was a little skeptical. A fierce look flashed across Flanders' face. Damn it, if it can't be solved, just cut him off. After that, Flanders strode away. Zhao Wuji shrugged, sighed, and said to himself, what the hell is this? First it was Oscar, then Tang San, and now it's Yu Xiaogang. Where did all these inexplicable things come from? Chapter 95. Tang San discovered the blind spot. As soon as Flanders left, the Shrek people came right after him. Why are you here? Zhao Wuji looked at Dame Yu Bei and the others and asked, why don't you rest in the hotel? Dame Yu Bei said, the master has some health problems, so we thought of coming to see him. In the original plot, during this period, the Shrek people basically went between the hotel and the big fighting arena. Every day, they practiced except fighting, and basically didn't go out much. But now, Yu Xiaogang's body has no idea what's wrong with it, and his pectoralis major has become abnormally exaggerated. Out of concern, everyone naturally came to see him. Xiao Wuji was very pleased. Well, it's not in vain that I love you, and the master will be very pleased. Mahanjin looked at the store and asked, "Where's the dean?" Xiao Wuji said, "I went out to find someone to help. Alas, I don't know if I can find a solution." Upon hearing this, everyone's mood immediately became a little depressed. It would be best if they could find a solution. If not, what should they do? Could they cut off Yu Xiaogang's penis? Cutting it off is a good idea, but damn, it's outrageous. The next second, everyone stopped thinking about it. Anyway, Flanders would take care of it. If it really doesn't work, then we can talk about it. Dame Yubei and Ning Rangrang are both of high status. If Flanders can't do anything, they can also help think of a solution. Entering the store, they saw Yu Xiaogang lying on the sofa inside with a pale face, resting. "You are here." Yu Xiaogang stood up, but his hemorrhoids were affected, and he gasped in pain. "Teacher, what's wrong with you? Are you hurt?" Tang San immediately asked with concern. Yu Xiaogang was a little annoyed. Nothing. He could actually tell Tang San that he had hemorrhoids, but there were too many people now, and he was a little embarrassed to say it in front of so many people. How could Tang San believe that he was fine? But he roughly guessed that it was hard to say in this situation, so he didn't ask any more questions. Everyone looked at Yu Xiaogang's exaggerated pectoral muscles and was silent for a while. This is too exaggerated. How come it looks more exaggerated than yesterday? Xiao Wu and Ning Rangrang are really envious at this moment. Why? Why can such an ugly uncle have such exaggerated pectoral muscles? Why can we beautiful girls have such smooth sailing? It can't be said to be smooth sailing, but there are only slight ups and downs, which is infuriating. ZHU Zuking's expression is as cold as ever, but under the cold appearance, there is a hot heart. Why? Why? Exclamation mark. Why is Yu Xiaogang the biggest person in Shrek now? This is too outrageous, too scary. Teacher, how do you feel today? Tang San asked. Yu Xiaogang asked, "What do you mean?" "It's your Fukuda." Tang San said. Yu Xiaogang was silent for 2 seconds, then said, "I drank a little last night, so my head hurts a little, but other than that, I don't feel any other discomfort." Tang San nodded, glanced at Yu Xiaogang's chest, and then stopped asking questions, saying, "Okay, teacher, drink in moderation in the future. Since you have no other physical problems, we'll go back first." "Well," Yu Xiaogang said, "don't think about anything else. Go back and practice well, adjust your state to the best, and strive to win a great victory tonight." "Okay, teacher." When everyone came to the door, Yu Xiaogang suddenly called Tang San. "Tang San, come here first. I'll talk to you. It'll be quick." Tang San nodded and obediently returned to Yu Xiaogang's side, while the others waited outside the store. "What? Hemorrhoids?" Tang San looked at Yu Xiaogang with a strange look on his face. He had known Yu Xiaogang for so many years, but he had never heard that Yu Xiaogang had this disease. But it's nothing to have this disease. As the saying goes, 9 out of 10 people have hemorrhoids, and 1 is being treated. In the previous life in the martial arts world, Tang San had hemorrhoids, but before he could fully develop, he had already jumped off a cliff to show his determination. So from this, we can know that jumping off a cliff can effectively treat hemorrhoids. Ahem, just a joke, don't take it seriously. The medicine for treating hemorrhoids, I haven't prepared it yet, but I know the formula roughly. I'll get some for you in a few days. Okay. Yu Xiaogang nodded. Although hemorrhoids are a very common disease, it is really tormenting. Yu Xiaogang doesn't dare to sit on the sofa now. He can only lean sideways, lie on the sofa. As soon as he sits down, his chrysanthemums are blooming, his body is cramped, and his balls are broken all over the floor. Watching Tang San leave, Yu Xiaogang changed his posture and immediately touched the wound again, grimacing in pain. On the way back to the hotel, everyone was silent. Tang San's expression was a little solemn. His intuition told him that Yu Xiaogang's hemorrhoids came in a strange way. Why didn't they occur earlier or later, but only after Yu Xiaogang's pectoralis major became strangely exaggerated? These two things happened together, which made people puzzled. At this time, he suddenly remembered the conversation with Zhao Wuji before leaving. Zhao Wuji said that Yu Xiaogang went out all night last night and didn't come back. After he came back, he found out that Yu Xiaogang went out to drink last night and was drunk. He slept in a shabby house in the south of the city. After sleeping there for a night, he got hemorrhoids. How could it be such a coincidence? The more Tang San thought about it, the more outrageous it seemed. His brows slowly furrowed. At this time, Mahanjan suddenly said, "I feel that Master's current situation is a bit dangerous." Everyone immediately looked at him, and Tang San asked, "What do you mean?" Mahanjan was silent for 2 seconds, and said, "Some people like men. Master is in this state now, and he may be targeted by some psychopaths." Hearing this, Tang San seemed to have finally grasped the light of inspiration in his mind. He immediately understood why Yu Xiaogang's hemorrhoids would flare up at this time. I'm afraid it's not hemorrhoids at all. But he couldn't make this kind of thing public, and couldn't let others know, otherwise Yu Xiaogang's reputation would be over. And now it's not certain whether it's hemorrhoids. Tang San just suspected it. Let's go back and prepare the medicine first, and I hope it's not a pervert. Tang San prayed in his heart. Zhang Tianyu remained calm on the surface, but in fact, he took in all of Tang San's expressions and demeanor. Hehe, it seems that Arsenal already roughly knows what Yu Xiaogang has been through. So, host? The system asked. So what? We can only let things take their course. Zhang Tianyu said helplessly. Now I absolutely cannot interfere in these matters. Once I interfere, I will be discovered. It's difficult. Chapter 96. Tragic. Yu Xiaogang was beaten again. In the evening, everyone gathered at the entrance of the Great Fighting Spirit Arena. Flanders and Zhao Wuji also arrived here on time and led everyone into the Great Fighting Spirit Arena. Obviously, the two did not realize the seriousness of the matter, so they left Yu Xiaogang alone in the shop. The law and order in Soto City at night is not that good. Is it really okay to leave Yu Xiaogang alone in the shop? Dean, did you find a way to solve my teacher's troubles when you went out today? Tang San asked. Flanders shook his head and sighed. I went out to find a few people I knew before, but when they heard it, they were all stunned. Everyone was silent. That's right, if we heard it, we would be stunned too. Who would have thought that a grown man would suddenly have extremely exaggerated pectoral muscles? Even more exaggerated than a big girl. What should we do next? Tang San asked with some concern. I went to see Yu Xiaogang today. Before leaving, I chatted with Zhao Wuji. At that time, Zhao Wuji said that if they couldn't find a solution, Flanders might have to cut Yu Xiaogang's body. Tang San was shivering when he heard this. If this really happened, wouldn't it hurt to death? Exclamation mark. However, if there is really no other solution, I'm afraid they can only cut it. In the future, they will have to participate in the Soul Master competition. At that time, Yu Xiaogang will definitely have to come forward as the leader or something. Then people will see, wow, Shrek's leader, a man's face, a woman's body, so awesome. Then Shrek will become famous all of a sudden, so Yu Xiaogang's physical problem must be solved. At this time, Flanders suddenly turned his head and looked at Zhang Tianyu. Tianyu, after the game, you will go to the store with us. Okay, Dean. Zhang Tianyu didn't ask anything and agreed directly. Flanders nodded with relief. Tianyu is a reliable kid. He will never say no when asked to do anything. He can handle it. Tang San's eyes lit up, and he immediately understood why Flanders asked Zhang Tianyu to go to the store. He probably wanted Zhang Tianyu to try Huangquan's Black Death Key to see if he could make Yu Xiaogang's pectoralis major smaller or even return to normal. Thinking about it carefully, it is really possible. Isn't the enlargement of Yu Xiaogang's pectoralis major also a kind of overgrowth? That's similar to Oscar's situation. Since Huangquan's Black Death Key can inhibit Oscar's excessive growth, it is likely that it can also inhibit Yu Xiaogang's excessive growth. Thinking of this, Tang San's mood immediately became better. The game started on time. Tonight they encountered some minor roles and successfully won all the games. After all the games were over, the others returned to the hotel. Zhang Tianyu, Tang San, Xiao Wuji and Flanders walked towards the store. As a result, after returning to the store, they were surprised to find that Yu Xiaogang was gone. But the good news is that everything is normal in the store and no signs of fighting were found, which means that it is likely that Yu Xiaogang left the store by himself. I don't know whether he went out to hang out or do something else. Is he going to drink somewhere again? Xiao Wuji frowned and said. Flanders was silent. It's really possible. Zhang Tianyu smiled in his heart. It's not possible, but he did go to drink. And he was not alone. Yu Xiaogang had been targeted by the group of fat bears last night. When Yu Xiaogang went out to drink tonight, he was followed by them again. Although Yu Xiaogang knew that he couldn't drink more, he couldn't resist their dirty tricks. Therefore, although Yu Xiaogang only drank 2 barrels of beer, he soon became drunk and unconscious. Then he was carried out of the bar by a group of people and went to an unknown small shabby house. Then there was another night of fierce fighting, and Yu Xiaogang's hemorrhoids became more serious. Although Zhang Tianyu couldn't see Yu Xiaogang's status at the moment, he could observe Yu Xiaogang's real-time location through the live map. If Yu Xiaogang wasn't drunk, he would definitely come back to Flanders' shop. But now Yu Xiaogang not only didn't come back here, but went to a remote alley. This shows that Zhang Tianyu's guess just now was completely accurate. When it was almost midnight, Flanders' face flashed with impatience. Tang San, Tianyu, you go back to rest tonight and come back tomorrow morning. Or should we wait a little longer? Zhang Tianyu said sensibly. No need. Flanders said. At this stage, your record is the most important. You can't delay your rest because of him. Go back and rest. Zhang Tianyu and Tang San looked at each other, nodded, and left. This damn guy. After the two left, Flanders said angrily, I told him during the day that it was okay to go out for a drink, but not to drink too much, but he ignored my words. Calm down, Xiao Wuji quickly advised. Why don't we go look for him? Flanders snorted in annoyance, but still walked out of the store, summoned his martial spirit, and flew into the sky. Yu Xiaogang said that when he woke up this morning, he was in an unmanned, dilapidated house in a remote alley in the south of the city. So Flanders didn't waste any words and flew straight to the south of the city. However, the south of the city is an old urban area. Unlike the west city and the central city of Soto City, which are brightly lit at night, this side is basically dark at night. So looking down from the air, every house looks like an unmanned, dilapidated house. After searching for a while, he didn't find any clues. Flanders was a little impatient, lowered the flight altitude, and began to search at low altitude. After searching twice, he still couldn't find it. Damn you, I'll teach you a lesson when I see you tomorrow. The restless night passed peacefully. In the early morning, Yu Xiaogang rubbed his splitting head again and woke up. I drank too much again. He muttered to himself in a daze. Yu Xiaogang sat up. The next second, a sharp and intense pain came from an indescribable part. Hemorrhoids. My hemorrhoids. Yu Xiaogang slapped his forehead hard. Pain. Too painful. He looked down and saw that he was not wearing pants this time, and his shirt was also unbuttoned. At this time, he also felt something was wrong. First of all, he didn't drink much last night, only 2 barrels. With his alcohol tolerance, he would not get drunk at all. Secondly, why are you always disheveled when you go to sleep? Thirdly, what's the matter with this hemorrhoid? I have obviously paid attention to it. Why did it become more serious? Could it be? He was stunned, and his expression became serious. Could it be that there were some ingredients in that wine that would make hemorrhoids worse? Sure enough, even if he went to drink again, he couldn't drink beer anymore, so he would try fruit wine next time. Chapter 97. It's not hemorrhoids. Look. Hairless monster. Wow. It's really a hairless monster, without even eyebrows. So ugly. So scary. Hairless monster. Hairless monster. Tang San. He turned around and glared at the jumping and shouting little brats, who laughed and ran away happily while cursing hairless monster. Tang San clenched and unclenched his fists, sighing helplessly. If you weren't only 4 or 5 years old, I would have killed you all. After cursing in his heart, Tang San quickened his pace and walked towards the hotel. He was in a very low mood, because this was not the first time he was called a hairless monster. Ever since he absorbed the spirit ring in the Stardao Great Forest and lost all his hair, no matter where he went, he would receive all kinds of strange looks and endless whispers. To be honest, he was a little envious of Oscar. Although Oscar's hair grows very fast, as long as Zhang Tianyu uses his death energy to suppress it, he can become a normal person in a short time and does not need to bear the strange looks of others. But he can't do that. No matter what method or means, he can't make his hair grow. Today he went to another clinic in Soto City and got the answer. No way, just let nature take its course. This bunch of damn quacks. All of them have ways to die. Tang San cursed viciously in his heart. After cursing, he became more decadent. He also knows medical skills and has used all the methods he can use, but he still has no hair on his body. Even eyebrows and eyelashes are gone. No hair, no eyebrows, no eyelashes, no beard. No wonder others call him a hairless monster. But soon, his mood became better. Because compared to him, Yu Xiaogang is more miserable. Yu Xiaogang's condition made it impossible for him to meet people. When he went to the clinic to inquire about Yu Xiaogang's condition, the answer he got was, "What the hell?" And the answers given by the doctors and healing spirit masters in every clinic were basically the same. So Tang San guessed that Yu Xiaogang was most likely to have his head cut off. So he was sensible and not only bought medicinal materials for the treatment of hemorrhoids from the clinic, but also bought medicinal materials for anesthesia. Back at the hotel, the others were still practicing. Tang San took a simple rest and began to prepare the medicine. The day passed peacefully. In the evening, at the old time, everyone gathered at the entrance of the Great Fighting Spirit Arena. Yu Xiaogang still didn't come, but strangely, Zhao Wuji didn't come today either. Just when everyone was wondering, Flanders spoke, "Let's change the plan tonight. Xiaogang has not returned home for 2 consecutive days. I think something is wrong, so let's not go to the Fighting Spirit tonight. Let's follow Xiaogang to see what he is going to do." Everyone looked at each other and nodded repeatedly. They were also very curious about Yu Xiaogang's experience, especially after learning that Yu Xiaogang had hemorrhoids after sleeping outside for a night, and after hearing Ma Hongzhen's remarks about perverts who like men. Everyone became even more curious. Maybe you can see something amazing. Anyway, if you don't fight the spirit today, you can go tomorrow. It's also very good to change your mood occasionally. When he arrived outside the store, Flanders found Zhao Wuji, who was observing in secret. Zhao Wuji whispered to Flanders and others, "The master hasn't left the store yet. I wonder if he will go out again tonight." As soon as he finished speaking, he saw Yu Xiaogang walking out with a duang. Duang. You really don't know until you see it. You will be shocked when you see it. Yu Xiaogang is so exaggerated now. He is even bigger than Zhu Xiuqing. His walking is simply breathtaking. Everyone felt a little pain in the ass, especially Dame Yu Bei and Zhang Tianyu. If this figure is placed on a beautiful woman, it would be so perfect. But when you look at Yu Xiaogang's face, it's like eating a delicious roasted leg of lamb, and suddenly you see a pile of shit you can vomit it on the spot. What on earth does he want to do all night? Flanders was speechless. Can't he just stay in the store honestly? Must he come out to have fun? Does he really not know that there is something wrong with his body now? Or does he want to come out to find excitement on purpose? After this thought came up, Flanders frowned immediately. Good man, maybe Yu Xiaogang really wants to come out for excitement. Could it be that this guy looks like a decent person on the surface, but is actually a psychopath? Flanders was patient and prepared to see what Yu Xiaogang wanted to do. Everyone followed Yu Xiaogang quietly all the way to a tavern, and then watched Yu Xiaogang go in to drink. Everyone jumped to the roof of a house opposite the tavern, and they could see Yu Xiaogang drinking fruit wine through the window. Everyone was a little confused for a while. Can you get drunk by drinking fruit wine? The wine on Douluo continent is similar to that on Earth, and it is roughly divided into 3 types: fruit wine, malt, beer, and white wine. If Yu Xiaogang gets drunk by drinking malt and white wine, it is understandable, but can you get drunk by drinking fruit wine? Thinking of this, Flanders became more and more certain that Yu Xiaogang's purpose was wrong and not simple. Sure enough, after drinking less than 2 barrels of fruit wine, Yu Xiaogang seemed to be unable to hold his liquor and fell on the table. Everyone was speechless. Xiao Wuji asked Flanders in a low voice, "Is the master's alcohol tolerance so poor?" "No," Flanders said firmly, "he used to have a good alcohol tolerance. Not to mention 2 barrels of fruit wine, he wouldn't get drunk, even if he drank 2 barrels of beer. Then why is he?" Before he finished speaking, Xiao Wuji's eyes widened, and everyone else showed the same expression, because a group of burly men walked up to Yu Xiaogang, lifted him up without saying a word, and walked out of the tavern. Who are these people? Xiao Wuji was stunned. Tang San and Flanders' eyes and expressions instantly became cold. Flanders said coldly, "I know this is not simple. Let's go and follow them to see." Among those people, only the fat bear boss is a spirit master. The rest are basically ordinary people. Carrying Yu Xiaogang, they are not walking fast. Everyone easily followed them to a remote alley in the south of the city. Looking at this place, Flender felt that his blood was boiling. He came to this place to look for Yu Xiaogang last night, but he didn't find him. As long as he thought that Yu Xiaogang was with this group of strange people last night, he was furious. A group of people carried Yu Xiaogang into a dilapidated and uninhabited courtyard. Everyone followed in and saw the shocking scene that followed. Flender and others were also angry that their hair stood on end. He almost lost his mind with anger. Tang San also burst out with a terrifying killing intent at this moment. No wonder Yu Xiaogang has hemorrhoids. No, that's not hemorrhoids at all. Chapter 98 Flanders' strange idea. Go. Flanders gnashed his teeth and said angrily, "Now that things have come to this, there is no need to hide anymore. Just rush up to deal with these scums and rescue Yu Xiaogang." Tang San couldn't hold back any longer. He was the first to rush up after hearing Flanders' order. Before he arrived, the blue-silver grass had already arched out of the ground and entangled those people. Those people were having fun and had never expected to be suddenly attacked. They were all stunned for a moment. At this moment, Flanders' wind blade of Zhang Tianyu's illusory sword also flew over at the same time. After a series of screams, all around fell silent. The group of people were now lying in a pool of blood, and only the leader, Fat Bear, was still breathing. "You, who are you?" Tang San gave him a vicious look, and then quickly walked to Yu Xiaogang's side. Yu Xiaogang was very miserable at the moment. He was completely unconscious, and was now fish to be slaughtered. As early as in the martial arts world of his previous life, Tang San had seen the miserable state of some female disciples of famous and upright sects after being violated by evil ways, and he had also seen the scene of ordinary women being tortured by flower thieves, but he never dreamed, really never thought, that one day he would be able to see such a miserable state of a grown man. This world is so fucking wonderful. At this moment, he was full of murderous aura and just wanted to kill this fat bear. But killing him like this would definitely be too easy for him. Flanders stared at Fat Bear. "Did you drug him?" Fat Bear was very tough. Although he was seriously injured, he was not afraid. He stared at Flanders and asked again, "Who are you?" Zhang Tianyu walked up to him without saying a word and threw a big bag at him. "Just answer the questions I ask you." Fat Bear glared back at Zhang Tianyu without showing any weakness. "Don't think I'm afraid of you. Kill me if you have the guts." Zhang Tianyu was about to speak. Tang San walked up to Fat Bear with a cold face, raised his hand, and flicked a black pill into Fat Bear's mouth. The speed was too fast. Fat Bear didn't react at all, and finally there was a trace of fear on his face. "What did you give me to eat?" Tang San looked at him coldly without answering. Fat Bear said angrily, "What the hell did you give me to eat?" He wanted to spit it out, but he tried for a long time, and couldn't spit it out. Then, his expression suddenly changed, and his body twitched uncontrollably, twisting and twitching. I'm so itchy. What on earth did you give me to eat? You bastard. He stretched out his hand to scratch it, but Tang San raised his hand, and the blue-silver grass broke out of the ground, and tied him up tightly. Moreover, he only tied him up, and did not inject paralysis toxins. After all, if that kind of toxin was injected, the other party would not be so itchy. This method of torturing people is very good. Fat Bear was almost dying of itching, but his hands and feet were tied up, and he couldn't scratch at all. He wanted to rub the ground to itch, but his body was also fixed by the blue silver grass, and he couldn't even rub it. Kill me if you have the guts. Kill me. Fat Bear burst into a scream. At this moment, he really wanted to live but couldn't, and he wanted to die but couldn't. Zhang Tianyu sneered. Die. Do you think you can be free by dying? After that, his first soul ring lit up, and a fireball flew out from the Huangquan sword blade, easily hitting the fat bear struggling on the ground like a maggot. After 2 seconds of silence, the fat bear suddenly burst into a more piercing scream. It hurts. It hurts so much. The whole body was in pain and itchy. Zhang Tianyu said coldly, my fire is not an ordinary fire. This is a flame that can burn your soul. Even if you die, it will continue to burn your soul. If you don't believe it, you can die and try it. In the end, under the double torture of these two people, the fat bear finally put away his rebelliousness. After finding out that it was them who had murdered Yu Xiaogang, and no one else had hurt Yu Xiaogang except them, Flanders directly killed the fat bear. Looking at Yu Xiaogang, who was still unconscious, everyone felt very distressed and sympathetic. No wonder he got drunk after 2 barrels of fruit wine. I didn't expect that he was secretly plotted against. These damned people, Zhao Wuji said angrily. Flanders was silent for a long time, leaned over and carried Yu Xiaogang. I'll take Xiaogang back to the store. Leo Zhao, you take the children back to the hotel. Okay, Zhao Wuji replied. Flanders then ordered, let's pretend that what happened tonight never happened. No one should mention it to Xiaogang. Understood. Everyone answered in unison. If Yu Xiaogang was told about this, I'm afraid Yu Xiaogang would want to die, right? After saying that, Flanders flapped his wings and flew into the sky, flying straight towards the store. Let's go, Zhao Wuji said. At this time, Tang San suddenly said, by the way, Teacher Zhao, I prepared some medicine today, and I'll go, and you sit for you later. Then leave it to me, I'll take it back later. Zhao Wuji said. Tang San nodded and handed the medicine to Zhao Wuji. At this time, Zhao Wuji suddenly thought of something and asked, wait a minute, this medicine, can it be applied on that place? Everyone's expression changed, including the girls. Although the girls avoided the scene just now, and were not irritated, they could still roughly guess what happened. Tang San said, yes. Zhao Wuji's expression immediately became somewhat resistant. Well, why don't you deliver this to the master in person? Wait for me to send you back to the hotel first, and then take you to the store. Tang San took the medicine, and was about to speak. Zhang Tianyu said, how about this, Mr. Zhao, you send the others back to the hotel, and San and I will go to the store. I fly fast, and can probably catch up with the dean. It's a good opportunity for me to try a little bit to see if Huangquan's Black Death energy can help the master solve the current trouble. I'm afraid that, if it is not solved, it may cause other troubles. Zhao Wuji thought for a while and said, that's right, then you go quickly, and pay attention to safety. Zhang Tianyu nodded, summoned an illusory sword, and flew into the air with Tang San, flying straight to the direction where Flanders left. In the store, Flanders put Yu Xiaogang on the sofa, and Yu Xiaogang was still unconscious. Looking at Yu Xiaogang's disheveled appearance, Flanders' expression was very complicated. It hurts. How could such a thing happen out of nowhere? However, not long after, looking at Yu Xiaogang in front of him, an inexplicable emotion suddenly surged in Flanders' heart, and then Flanders was a little frightened. His orientation has always been very normal, how could he suddenly have some messy ideas out of nowhere? No, no, no. Don't think about it anymore. Yu Xiaogang is his good friend and good brother, he can't have any other ideas. The one he really has ideas about should be Liu Erlang. Thinking of this, he said to himself loudly in his heart, Flanders, put away those weird ideas of yours. Right now. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 99 cut it for him. Then, Flanders' breathing became rapid. Sometimes it's like this. The more you want to restrain yourself, and the more you don't want to think about those messy things, the more you can't restrain yourself, and the easier it is to think about random things. At this moment, Flanders is trapped in such a vicious cycle. The more he tries not to let his random thoughts run wild, the more he can't control his random thoughts. The next second, Flanders suddenly wakes up. Then he curses himself in his heart. What the hell am I thinking about? What am I in a daze? What's wrong with me? Why am I so absent-minded? And even starting to think about random things. He doesn't quite understand what happened to him, but reason tells him that the idea just now is absolutely wrong and abnormal. He doesn't actually know that he is very normal, but no matter how normal a person is, he can't stand the power of props. The master and apprentice must be neat and tidy. Mahanjan was forcibly changed by the props released by Zhang Tianyu, so Flanders, as a teacher, of course, can't run away, and most importantly, the props used for the two of them are exactly the same. Although only the first item is free to try, the second item needs to be purchased with points, but fortunately, this item is not very expensive, because its effect is not particularly buggy. Moreover, this item can kill two birds with one stone. It can not only cause trouble for Tang San and Yu Xiaogang, but also the kind of trouble that is always hidden in the dark and will jump out to give a knife. Most importantly, when Zhang Tianyu attacks Yu Xiaogang in the future, it will also help Zhang Tianyu save some trouble. In the previous life, Yu Xiaogang was affected by the item, which caused a lot of trouble for Flanders. In this life, of course, the situation will change, so that Flanders can also experience it. However, it is not just Flanders. When the time comes, Zhang Tianyu plans to let Yu Xiaogang experience it. Unilateral efforts are definitely not as good as two-way efforts. At this moment, Flanders was a little panicked. The feeling he had when facing Yu Xiaogang just now was a bit similar to the feeling he had when facing Yu Xiaogang. Then doubtful thoughts popped up in his dazed mind. It's not right. Yu Xiaogang was a beauty, and at that time he had the same hobbies and goals, so he would like Yu Xiaogang, but that was only for Yu Xiaogang. The person in front of him was not Yu Xiaogang, but Yu Xiaogang. So what was that feeling just now? At this moment, his mind was confused, and he was at a loss. He just looked at Yu Xiaogang with a dull face. He didn't understand why such strange thoughts came out of his mind. At this time, a voice suddenly exploded in his ears like a thunder. Dean. Flanders was so scared that his whole body shook violently. When he looked back, he saw Tang San and Zhang Tianyu standing at the stairs, looking at him with an inexplicable look. Ahem. Why are you here? Flanders tried his best to calm his mind and asked. Tang San and Zhang Tianyu looked at each other, and after a few seconds of silence, Tang San replied, the teacher said that he had hemorrhoids and asked me to prepare some medicine, so I sent it over. Zhang Tianyu replied, I sent Arson over, and by the way, I saw if my martial spirit could suppress the master's condition. Flanders said, it's rare that you are so thoughtful, but forget it tonight. Let's wait until tomorrow. Tang San, you leave the medicine, I will apply it to him later. Tang San was stunned. To be honest, because this is a medicine for treating hemorrhoids, Tang San actually has some resistance to helping Yu Xiaogang apply the medicine. Originally, if Flanders could take the initiative to help, Tang San would also be happy to give up this opportunity. But from Flanders' performance of staring at Yu Xiaogang just now, Tang San seemed a little worried about letting Flanders do this. Let me do it. I'm the teacher's student, and it is my duty to take care of the teacher. Tang San said. Flanders frowned and was about to speak, but suddenly remembered that the two men had seen his abnormal expression and movements just now. If he had to ask him to do it at this time, it would easily make the two men suspicious. So he coughed and said, well, it's rare that you have such filial piety. You come. Tang San helped Yu Xiaogang up and walked into the bedroom and the shop. Zhang Tianyu and Flanders were waiting outside. Neither of them spoke, and the atmosphere was a bit awkward. However, Flanders was really embarrassed, while Zhang Tianyu was just pretending to be embarrassed. He was embarrassed on the surface, but in fact he was laughing wildly in his heart. But while laughing wildly, he also felt a little pity. What a pity. If they came in later, maybe they could see Flanders and Yu Xiaogang fighting on the spot with their own eyes. This is the disadvantage of not opening the Jianghu function. With only the live point map, he can only see Flanders and Yu Xiaogang together, but can't see what they are doing. If the Jianghu function is opened, the observation function can be used to monitor what they are doing. In that case, hehehe. But if you really saw their fight, is it possible that Flanders would kill you to silence you? The system asked at this time. Give them the courage. Zhang Tianyu thought. Yu Xiaogang must have told him that Tang San is Tang Heio's biological son, and he certainly doesn't dare to attack Tang San. As for me, if he dares to kill me, I can't beat him, but can't I run away? When I run away, I will find a chance to kill him. While talking, Tang San opened the door and walked out. Flanders stood up, as if it was a conditioned reflex, and asked subconsciously, "What's the matter?" Tang San went to the bathroom and washed his hands. It's already applied, but this medicine needs to be applied for a long time, at least more than a week. I have put it on the table next to the teacher's bed. I will tell the teacher how to use it and the dosage tomorrow. Next, Tianyu? Zhang Tianyu nodded, walked into the bedroom, and summoned Huangqun. A stream of black hair filled the room and drilled into Yu Xiaogang's body. However, Yu Xiaogang's pectoralis major did not shrink at all, and it was still as big as before. This was within Zhang Tianyu's expectation, because the item, Ingilfera, seemed to have grown bigger, but in fact it had nothing to do with the attribute, growth, so Huangqun's Black Death aura would not have any effect. Seeing no reaction, Tang San and Flanders both looked disappointed. Zhang Tianyu sighed and shook his head. It's useless. Flanders said, then we can only use the last resort. The last resort? Tang San was stunned. Flanders nodded and said, cut it for him. Chapter 100. What is the strongest tool? Although they had expected it, Tang San and Zhang Tianyu still couldn't help but shudder after hearing the word cut off. Of course, Tang San was sincere and Zhang Tianyu was pretending. Wait a minute, Dean, is there really no other way? Tang San asked. Flanders shook his head. I have almost run all over Soto City these days and asked everyone I can, but Xiaogang and I are brothers who have been through life and death together. If there is any other way, I will definitely not use this. Tang San closed his eyes in pain and sadness. Cut off, how painful and uncomfortable it must be. Thinking of this, he took out another pack of medicine from his arms. This is an aesthetic. You said before that, if there is no other way, you can cut it off for the teacher, so I bought the herbs and prepared it. I didn't expect to use it so soon. Flanders looked at him and took the medicine silently. Although he didn't say anything, he muttered in his heart, wow, this is already prepared. It seems that Tang San is looking forward to Yu Xiaogang being cut off. Then when are you going to start, Dean? Zhang Tianyu asked. Let's do it now without delay. Flanders said, Xiaogang has been drugged and is unconscious, so he won't move around. With Tang San's anesthetic, we can definitely get rid of him without anyone noticing. Tang San and Zhang Tianyu looked at each other and then said in unison, then we'll help you here. Flanders nodded. Soon the three of them were ready. The anesthetic was boiled and used on Yu Xiaogang. The lights were turned on and adjusted to the brightest. Finally, Yu Xiaogang's shirt was unbuttoned. Duang. Duang. Every time Zhang Tianyu saw this scene, he couldn't help but his eyes twitching. This is even more exaggerated than the strongest body in humanity. If it can be used on a beautiful woman, it will definitely be perfect and invincible. Unfortunately, this face is Yu Xiaogang's face. Why you? Then Zhang Tianyu secretly made a comparison in his mind and finally found that Liu Erlang's face in his memory seemed to be bigger, and then he felt relieved. After everyone had made preparations, Zhao Wuji happened to come back. Seeing this scene, he immediately asked, why, do it now? Flanders looked back at him and said, do it now, because Tianyu can't suppress this situation. Zhao Wuji nodded helplessly, okay. Flanders pulled out a sharp short knife from the storage soul guide and pointed it at Yu Xiaogang's pectoralis major. Xiaogang, don't blame me. I have no choice but to do this. Starting tomorrow, you can resume your normal life. After saying that, the knife flashed like lightning. Puff. A sound of discouragement sounded, and in the eyes of everyone, Yu Xiaogang's left pectoralis major shrank rapidly and soon returned to normal. Everyone was stunned. Then Zhao Wuji said, "What? It turns out that there is only air inside." Flanders showed a relaxed expression, "So that's how it is. This way it's actually simpler." Looking at the long wound, Flanders felt that it was a good thing that it was not cut off all at once, otherwise it would be difficult to deal with. Now it is still connected to a piece, and it can be restored by applying some medicine to promote wound healing. Next, the right pectoral muscle will not be so troublesome. Just make a hole to release the gas. With a burst of air release, Yu Xiaogang's body finally returned to normal. Everyone showed a relaxed and happy expression. I thought it would be very troublesome, but I didn't expect that it only needed such a simple treatment. If I had known it was so simple, I wouldn't have to worry so much these days. Flanders smiled. Yes, I didn't expect it to be so simple. A big stone in Tang San's heart was also put down. The teacher's problem was solved, and now he only needed to solve his own problem. Then Flanders took out the medicine to promote wound healing, and applied it to Yu Xiaogang. Now we just need to wait for the wound to heal, and it will be fine. Flanders breathed a sigh of relief. Asan, Tianyu, you've been busy for most of the night. You're tired. Go back and rest. Okay, Dean. Now that Zhao Wuji is back, Tang San can put his mind at ease. After saying goodbye to Flanders and Zhao Wuji, the two of them flew towards the hotel on flying swords. So the question is, can the so-called strongest item in Jilfura really be solved so easily? Of course it can't be that simple. Otherwise, how can it get the title of strongest item? That night, when Flanders went to bed in a relaxed and happy mood, he suddenly felt that the muscles in his chest were a little tight, and there was also a burning sensation. But he didn't care, because he had been running outside these days, so he thought it was probably tired, and he just needed to rest. Of course, in fact, the lethality of this item is not strong. No, to be precise, this item actually has no lethality. Therefore, the title of the strongest item does not actually refer to lethality, but is the abbreviation of human's strongest body item. This explanation makes a lot more sense. The next day, a peaceful day passed peacefully. After Yu Xiaogang woke up, he asked about the scar on his chest. Flanders told him that he was drunk last night and accidentally fell and injured, so Flanders helped him apply medicine. As a good brother who had been through life and death together, Yu Xiaogang did not doubt too much, and chose to believe. Flanders still occasionally felt that the muscles in the chest and back parts of the body were a little tight and hot, but apart from this position, no other special events occurred. The next day, another peaceful day passed. However, after another day, the situation became a little wrong. Zhao Wuji was the first to notice that something was wrong with Flanders. He said, "Boss, your body seems to have changed a bit." Flanders was confused. "What's wrong?" "It's just..." Zhao Wuji looked at it carefully again. It seemed to have changed a bit, but it didn't seem to have changed much. So after hesitating for a while, he said, "I saw it wrongly," and then passed it over. 2 days later, Zhao Wuji finally confirmed, "Boss, your body is really wrong." "What do you mean?" Flanders asked. "Just like the master, the pectoralis major has become bigger," Zhao Wuji said. Yu Xiaogang was stunned. "Ah." Flanders was also stunned. Then he looked down and looked at Zhao Wuji with a puzzled look. "No, did you see it wrongly?" "No." Zhao Wuji was speechless. "The day before yesterday, I felt that it seemed to have become a little bigger, but I was not sure at that time. But now I can be sure that it has become bigger." "No, don't talk nonsense," Flanders said. Just as Zhao Wuji was about to speak, Yu Xiaogang suddenly said, "Zhao Wuji is right. It has really grown bigger." Zhao Wuji looked at Yu Xiaogang, and a flash of inspiration came to his mind. Could it be that this is contagious? Exclamation mark. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.